He hasn't spoken a word.
Hello, creeps. It's your old pal, the Crypt Keeper. And you are now tuned in to my good fiends at Talks from the Crypt, the most gruesome podcast in the world.
Well, everybody, Joe Begas has joined us in the Crypt. I think it was
Oh, do we start?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it was kind of a bad idea to be drinking whiskey until 3 a.m, but it's like, how else could you celebrate having you on the show?
Yeah, it's normal Thursday night for me anyway. So
Fuck yeah, man. When did you move to LA?
in 2008, September 1st, 2008, we got into town. Me and my buddy Josh, my longtime best friend and producing partner and editor on all my movies, been friends since high school. We moved out here together, and the very first night we were in LA, not out here, we're in Las Vegas now, but the very first night we were in LA, Cronenberg was showing The Fly at the Dome on 35mm in person. So like we dropped our shit off at our apartment, didn't even have electricity, and then drove to the Dome, and like, yeah, within 4 hours of being in LA, you're seeing David Cronenberg on the biggest movie theater I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
Like a pristine print of The Fly, and I was like, yeah, this is fucking dope. So
Right.
yeah, 17 and a half years ago.
Now, did you move out there specifically because you wanted to make movies? You just wanted to be in the hub of it all?
Yeah. And I knew since I was like 10, I wanted to move to LA. I mean, that's where everything is. And, you know, when I grew up, that's where every movie was shot. So like,
Yeah.
I guess when I moved out to LA, that's kind of when it started to dissipate a little bit. But yeah, it's just, you know, I didn't go to college or anything. I'm not a academic oriented person, and I was already making movies anyway. So for me, it was like we graduated. I mean, my buddy just spent a year working construction jobs and shit and saving up money. And then we drove out there, and we split a 1-bedroom for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
I slept in a living room until right before I made my second movie. I was sleeping in a living room.
Which
until
was
then. Mind's Eye.
Mind's Eye, yeah. Yeah, it's fucking awesome. I just love how punk your career has been. You haven't been to film school. Everything is self-taught. Most of your films are self-funded.
Not most. I put a little bit of money in most of them, but
Well, wasn't Jimmy and Stiggs paid with, or which was the movie that was like paid with straight credit cards?
Almost Human. That was the first one.
Yeah, the first one,
Yeah.
right.
So that one was like, yeah, what I could get on credit card limits, you
Yeah.
know, which in 2012 or whatever, I was my broke ass working at a movie theater. Like they somehow gave me, you know, $10,000 in credit. And then Jimmy and Stiggs, I put a big chunk of money in. Bliss, I got a bank loan to finish it, but we got the money to shoot the movie up front. But yeah, I'm the only fucking idiot who, you know, financed half of their 6th movie themselves.
Yeah.
But whatever. That's why the movie got made.
Just move your mic a little bit closer to your mouth.
Okay.
Butte.
There we go. Is that better?
Much better.
Cool.
I want
Sorry.
to hear the sultry sounds of your voice.
Yeah, man, I've always wanted to move out to LA. I've always just felt like it would help psychologically. Like, did you notice when you moved out there that shit just felt different? Like being where they make movies, did it psychologically? Because you're from Rhode Island, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine out there is not very movie centric.
No. It's also weird because I went back after living in LA for, you know, 4 or 5 years, and made my first 2 movies back in Rhode Island. It's, you know, it's weird to think about now because it was also such a jump. Like, you know, it's not like I had a regular life before I moved to, like a regular adult life before I moved to LA. I graduated high school
Yeah.
and spent a year just working construction and partying with my friends, and then moved here. So like, it was just a big change. You know, first time out on my own, all that, like, and moving to LA and like starting my career or attempting to start my career. So yeah. But also now, like when I go back to Rhode Island, it just feels so fucking depressing.
Right. What town in Rhode Island?
I was all over the place, but I mostly grew up in this town, Coventry, which is like borders Connecticut.
Right.
But everywhere in Rhode Island, you can get across the city and like across the state in like 30 minutes.
Right.
So it's so weird because living in LA too, you know, driving across the city, sometimes it'll take like an hour.
Right.
When-
to go 4 miles.
Yeah. And when I lived in Rhode Island, we would drive to Boston, and that was like an hour away. And it seemed so like you'd plan days in advance, like, all right, we're gonna go to Boston and do this.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, I gotta drive to Burbank. It's actually gonna take me longer than when I'm driving to fucking Boston. But you know, you just get used to it, I guess.
Now, I know you started out as an actor, or you wanted to be an actor first, but you realized that the actors aren't the ones coming up with what you see on screen. So you
Yeah.
got
Well,
more-
for context, I was like 8. This was something that I realized when I was like 22. But yeah, just because I loved movies so much, I wanted to be creating them. And to me, like, you know, as an 8-year-old, especially like, you know, before the internet and before DVDs with special features and stuff, you'd have like the HBO first looks basically be the only thing you could have. But yeah, I just assume like the actors made it up for whatever stupid reason, you know, 7-year-old brain. But
And writing came first? Like before you knew you wanted to be a director, did you have goals to be a writer, or did those two things just come hand in hand for you?
no, I only write out of necessity
Yeah.
to direct because there's no material out there that speaks to me. Like VFW is the only script that I've ever been sent where I was like, okay, yeah, I can do something with this. And then even that, you know, people think I wrote it because, I mean, I did essentially at the end of the day co-write it, but people just assume that it's a movie that I wrote and directed because it is so close to my sensibilities anyway. But yeah, I just write out of necessity because for me, like writing, a lot of it is directing. Like when I'm writing, I can't just like write a script. I'm like thinking about the shot selection, how the room is going to be lit and how the room is going to be designed. And it just inherently like it comes with the process. And also like, you know, nobody else has my brain. So there's an argument to be made that, you know, there are a lot better writers out there. You know, it's people who are just, one of the biggest things is like, Biggest needs a writer. And it's like, yeah, but I don't think you guys understand. Like, I agree that maybe writing isn't my strong point and there are better writers out there, but there's nobody else who can write material that'll make, like, by nature of me writing, it makes my directing better because I'm writing for my direction as opposed to just picking up another script. So it's like, no, I can write the best. There are better writers than me, but I write the best movies that I can direct. Like,
Yeah.
So for me, it comes in, and I fucking hate writing. I like having written, and I have times where it's been fun writing, but yeah, it's just, I like being on set and making decisions rapid fire with a group of people, and like you're seeing this stuff come alive and you're on the floor working. You know, I operate the camera, I'm on the floor with the camera and the actors, and I'm like changing or I'm painting stuff on the set. Whereas when you're writing, it's like, you know, I'm just sitting in a fucking room by myself, and the opportunities, not the opportunities, but the trajectory is endless. So like you have time to just, well, what if I did this? What if I did this? So I just, you know, I overwrite too. I write like 1,000 pages by the end of a screenplay because I'm trying out all these different ideas and almost like shaping it.
Right.
But it all stems, like all my scripts too, they stem from like visually or directorially an idea that I have in my head. And then I have to like backwards engineer the script.
Right. Well, it's crazy because to write something that makes it to screen is very hard and requires like a massive amount of talent. So I know you're saying that there's better writers than you, and you hear these, you know, casuals on fucking Letterboxd talking shit. But like at the end of the day, man, you're writing scripts that are making it to the screen. I've never had a complaint about your writing at all. But people complain about shit like that all the time. You know, you definitely are polarizing, but I feel like the best filmmakers are polarizing.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with being polarizing. It's better. I'd rather make a movie that 20% of the people are like, this is my favorite movie of the year, or 5% of the people are like, this is my favorite movie of the year, and 80% hate it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. There's not a lot of middle ground on most of my movies. VFW probably is the most like middle ground, but like Bliss or Jimmy and Stiggs or Christmas Bloody Christmas, people either love it or they hate it, which is fine with me because they are a very specific movie. Like, you know, not everybody wants to be around these characters, but that also stems from me not seeing the characters that inhabit my life on screen. Like nobody's making it. And anytime anybody tries to make a movie with like dirtbag, scumbag, fucking metalheads, they're not actually that person. So they're like, it just seems like such a inauthentic way. And you know, you see so many people who are like, people don't fucking talk like this. And it's like, okay, you fucking normie douchebag who lives in Palm Beach, Florida, where the fuck your letterbox says you are. Obviously you're not hanging out in fucking metal clubs at 3 a.m. doing blow. So who the fuck are you to say, like, you know, obviously if I watch a movie, you know, like the new I Know What You Did Last Summer, I don't know if you saw that, but
fuck no.
It turned me off at the beginning because every single character in that movie is like a millionaire.
And hot.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's fine. But like
unrealistically hot.
Yeah, but it's like every character is a millionaire and they're like all in like all these lavish things. And it's like, well, these characters are intolerable, but I mean, that's probably how they are. I don't encounter those people in my normal life, but you know, but also there's no audience, like that audience isn't watching these movies. So those characters are just for nobody. But yeah, so that stuff doesn't bother me when people are like, people don't fucking talk like this. This writing's so bad. And it's like, there's a difference between bad shit and stuff that's not for you. Like, you know, I have enough confidence in myself where I know I'm just making movies for specific people. And so that shit doesn't bother me. But yeah, it's funny because people, they confuse bad writing or like things don't exist, like because they live in their own fucking bubble. And it's like, and I hate in movies too, where you've got the 5 characters that they introduce at the beginning and everybody wants to be the Breakfast Club because it's like, okay, you got these 5 people. So it's like, we need the stereotype, the archetype. And it's like, you know what? Nobody in life, there's not a friend group of 5 people where there's the goth, the jock, the lesbian, and it's
nerd.
like, those people don't fucking hang out. Like,
Yeah.
you need a group of people who are all going to realistically be the same. And that's another thing. Oh, all the characters are the same. And it's like, well, if you hang out with people like me, yeah, I hang out with people who have the same fucking tastes as me. That's what normal people do in social situations. You know, if you're a fucking father of 3, you're only going to hang out with other normal ass families. So yeah, you have that idea, but like,
You might not curse as much.
yeah. So that's another thing that bothers me is like, you know, you just, when people reverse engineer these archetypes into movies, like, and it's like, these people wouldn't hang out. I hate every single one of them. These people hate each other. They wouldn't like, that's just so fucking annoying. I don't even know what the fuck put me on that tangent, but
No, I love it. We were talking about writing and fucking people saying that they don't like your writing. I've never had a complaint about your writing. I prefer it over a lot of
I
other
can
writers.
direct you to some people who would want me on the execution block.
Well, dude, people feel the same way about Rob Zombie, you know, because he's got a lot of curse words, you know, and people are always like, oh, those hillbilly fucking potty mouths. And it's like, I think that's what makes his movies more realistic in a sense, because similar to you, I hang out with people who curse all the time. Every other word I say is fuck, cunt, or shit. So it's like, it doesn't stand out to me as abnormal. But what does stand out to me with your movies is the tone and the atmosphere that you set, which you really found, I think, on Bliss, right? When you really got into all these, the neon colors and, you know, the fogged out rooms.
Well, also part of that comes from, you know, it's interesting because I think that, like, for me, when I look back at my movies, another thing too, you know, I feel like a lot of people can't be objective about their own movies. I'm my own worst critic, which is so funny because, you know, when I'm talking shit about other people's movies or something like that, it's like, well, you should see the shit I say about my own movies. But I'm able to like extract the shitty part of my movies or things that didn't work. And like, because this is also like a benefit of me being the writer, producer, director and having a final cut in all these movies is, you know, I have so many friends in the industry who don't have that ability to have final cuts. So like, there's so many things beyond their control that make the movie bad, or not make the movie bad, but not what they wanted. So like, at the end of the day, they have a movie where they're like making excuses for how this part's bad or that part's bad. And in some instances, it is because somebody told them you have to do this, you have to do this. And then maybe sometimes they don't want to fight back. But like,
So how do you maintain so much control? Do you fight back?
I've only had one movie where I had to deal with people, like arguing with people, and it was VFW because it was, you know, that again, that's because the project was sent to me. There's already producers on board. And I had to like spend so much extra energy. So I did fight back. Like I was being a fucking prick to the producers because it's like, you guys are just fucking stupid. You're wrong. And I stood my ground and, pretty much everything. The one thing on that movie that I didn't get that I wanted was shooting on film, which is annoying because originally if I did shoot on film, I was going to have to lose a couple days. And I was like, all right, yeah, I can do that. And then they were like, no, we're not going to. Then I lost a couple days anyway because of rain and scheduling. But like, yeah, you just have to be confident. You have to like, if you know exactly what the fuck you want. And I just feel like a lot of directors are insecure. They think they're going to lose their job. But if you know what the fuck you want and somebody gives you a shitty suggestion, it's like, no, here's why you're wrong. So I'm going to, you know, tell you why that's wrong. And I'm just going to go do my fucking thing because I got to make my day, so get the fuck out of my way. But the thing is it's like, going back to what I was saying, is because I write the movies and then I'm the one finding the financing. Typically I'm in control of everything. Like I own all my copyrights mostly. But because I'm finding those things and I'm putting the movie together, nobody's bringing the movie to me. There's nobody like hierarchy. But like to go back to even further, because I'm in control of all the decisions, when I look at the movie and there's stuff that inherently I don't like or that didn't work, I can learn from those experiences and fix it on my next movie because I made those mistakes. I'm not like, oh, well, I still haven't gotten to make the movie that I wanted. So like with my first 2 movies, I made Almost Human and, you know, I was 24 and I did have the insecurity, like I need to make a movie that's going to look like a real movie, or I've never written a script before. So I very much took a lot of more of my influences on the sleeve of that movie. And I'm like, here's going to be my Carpenter moment and here's going to be my James Cameron moment. And that movie is a hodgepodge of influences that I ripped directly. And then the movie was successful. And I got those second time jitters where I'm like, okay, now I got to follow up. That somehow my movie on credit cards got into the biggest festival in the world. And like, I made all this, you know, not all this money, but I made like quadruple the money
And
back.
how old were you at the time?
20. I was 24 when I shot it, and we were 25 when we sold it.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm just going to do that again, but with a bigger budget and I'm going to pay everybody. So I went back to Rhode Island and I made Mind's Eye, which again was another movie where it's like, I'm going to make my Cronenberg movie. And then I realized after that movie, I was like, all right, well, I had like 10 times the budget, or 8 times the budget, but like, it just feels like it wasn't a step up. So I had to kind of step back and look at that. And it made me realize like, okay, I made a lateral move.
Why'd you feel that way though? That it wasn't a step up?
It just it didn't feel any bigger to me. Like maybe there's more effects and stuff. Like, and I feel like I wasn't challenging myself directorial wise. I was kind of like having the same structure of like, you know, the 3-person thing with the villain and the 2 other characters and all the intersecting. And like, I was, you know, trying to do an 80s style movie and I was shooting on Rhode Island and I was using this. So like I stepped back and I was like, okay, this feels like a lateral move. And I kind of really had to think about what I was going to do next and how do I look at this. So that's where Bliss came in. It's like, okay, I've proven to myself I can competently make a movie. I have no insecurity about that anymore. But what can I do that's like going to now be my next step up? And it's like, okay, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone. Definitely going to shoot on film. I'm going to have a female lead and I'm going to follow this one character the whole time. And I'm going to make a movie based on all the shit that I like and do. Like, yeah, I'm out fucking partying all the time in LA and I fucking hate, you know, working with execs and I hate this. And like, I find influence in drugs and I find influence in this. And I'm like, I'm just going to put it all on screen. And I know my technical prowess is there and I'm going to make a movie that nobody else could make. And then I made Bliss. And when reviews for that came out, it was like, biggest finally got a budget, this and that. And it's like, Bliss was half the budget of Mind's Eye, but
Really?
people think it was a big step up because I was able to look. So it's weird because Bliss should have kind of been my second movie, but to me, Almost Human and then into Mind's Eye, they feel lateral. They feel like it feels like there's those 2 movies. Then there's me finding out, oh yeah, you know what? Nobody else can. The thing I need to stand out is me. Mm-hmm. And I'm also a very polarizing figure in real life. Like people either fucking like me or they hate me when they meet me. And that's okay with me. I'm not trying to, I don't want friends in my life who are friends with me for any other reason besides they like being around my ridiculous ass self. Yeah. So like, why don't I put this ridiculous persona, persona is also wrong. Why don't I put this ridiculous personality and like my life view onto celluloid? And then that's the movie where, you know, Almost Human and Mind's Eye had a lot of middling responses. It's like, yeah, it's decent, it's this and that. But Bliss, a lot of people fucking hated it, but there's so many people who are like, this is my favorite movie of the past 10 years. This movie changed my life. And it was so funny because when I was making the movie, it's like, I'm just going to make a movie from my point of view. Like, I'm not going to do anything like, just going to write the movie I want to make and I want to see. And I'm like very open with my, you know, use of drugs and sexuality and like love of like fucking the male gaze of, you know, who. So I was like, when I was making the movie, all my friends were like, dude, you're going to get canceled over this movie. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And then when it came out, like so many reviews are like, Biggest is an ally. And like all these bisexual people are like, this is the movie that finally gets seen. And it's like, yeah, you know what? You don't need to follow like you just need to be fucking, my views are just out there and people are like, when you read it on the page, it's like, oh, this is, so people were like, you know, that's another thing I hate is people tiptoe around stuff and they just want to put like their ideas or like, am I following the right morals? Like if you're a good fucking person, just do whatever the fuck is in your head and people will find the subtext in that, which is what happened with Bliss. It's like, yeah, I love a fucking cool chick who's fucking open with her sexuality and loves fucking around and fucking dudes and like is a fucking alpha and like that's awesome to me. So yeah, I'm going to portray that on screen. Like that's the type of shit that I want to see. And Dora fucking took that with open arms.
Yeah,
so
she was
like
great in that movie.
Yeah. So that with that movie, it was like, okay, now I realize that what I got to do is just do that, the biggest lens, because what you need to do in this world is make stuff that nobody else can make. So again, that inherently comes back to writing. There's not one person on this earth who fucking has my exact brain. So, and also my directorial style comes so much from writing. So like they couldn't architect the type of things that I'm trying to build visually and sonically when I'm writing and thinking about that stuff. So, so that's why I write. And that's also like, I don't even know how we got on the topic of Bliss being you said that Bliss is like the first one that felt more like me.
It was like where you found yourself. It feels like, you know, because that style carries through to your other films. I mean, like you said, Almost Human, Mind's Eye.
Right, they feel different sections. Like they feel very sectionalized in a way. Like you could see a clear break and now it's like, oh, this is this era. And, you know, I'm curious if that'll happen again in my career. Hopefully it would be cool, but like, you know, that's just.
Well, it's impressive that you found your style and your voice on your third film. You know, it takes people a long time. And you were making a shit ton of shorts too, right? Because I only saw 2. I saw Bad Moon Rising and Toxin.
Yeah, those are the 2 shorts I made once I moved to well, I made like 5 shorts once I moved to LA, but like those are the 2 that I made right before Almost Human, like where there was like, sort of not really a crew, but it's also funny because that first short that I sent you, it's not online like publicly. But Bad Moon Rising is the first one that we got into a festival, which is interesting because Josh, my producer and editor, was assistant editor on Hatchet 2 and 3.
Starred in Digging Up the Marrow too.
Well, he was in it. Yeah, I didn't star in it, but he was in it. And he ended up cutting Digging Up the Marrow. But we knew Green and Lynch, and we showed them the short, and they got it into Fright Fest. And when we were at Fright Fest, the guy who runs Fright Fest is like, if you guys and also being at Fright Fest when I was like 25 or 23, I'm seeing all these movies that are like $500,000 movies with distribution deals that look like fucking dog shit. And I'm like, well, at the very least, I know I can make a movie that looks on par with this for like 20 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I should do. And it got me all jazzed up being at the festival. And the promoter, the head of the festival was like, if you make a feature, we'll premiere here next year. My shitty English accent, but and I was like, okay. So I put together Almost Human, finished it for the festival, and they passed on it. And then we got into Toronto Midnight Madness, which is the biggest genre festival. That's where Cabin Fever premiered, Saw, Hellraiser, Hard Boiled,
Wow.
Bad Taste, Dead Alive. Like this guy, and there's only 10 movies every year. So like this guy discovered all these movies, and we got into Midnight Madness. And then the guy from Fright Fest is like, oh, actually, we do want to play it. And I'm like, fuck you. No, because now Tip's not going to play it.
Yeah.
So I made that, and then I made Toxin the next short after that, kind of while I was like in pre-production on Jimmy and Stiggs.
Right.
Just to kind of fuck around with stuff. But yeah, I was making shorts since I was like 12 or 13
Well,
with
dude,
Josh.
your ability to do practical effects that early on is incredible. Like I was watching Bad Moon Rising and I was like, Jesus, man, for a first film, like these guys really knew how to use these different devices to make these scenes. I don't want to give it away for people who haven't seen it, but
Yeah,
it's
a short that I made 15 years ago. You can give it away.
but it's it's a werewolf story. There's a couple of gunshots to the head. Somebody getting bitten in it, and it was convincing practical effects, which is like fucking hard to pull off and make look convincing on film.
Yeah, but like the thing is too, when I was in high school making stuff, I was so into the whole Peter Jackson and Sam Raimi way of filmmaking, which I knew that I was going to have to make an indie myself, and that's how I was going to break into the industry. I knew that I wasn't going to write a script that was going to like sell for a bunch of money, and I knew there wasn't going to be like some bidding war where I made a studio movie. So it's like, I know I'm going to have to make something from scratch for basically no money, and that's what I'm going to do. So I knew that when I was like 14, so I spent the next 8 years or whatever making shorts, building towards it. So like when we were 15, me and Josh, and we had a couple of other buddies who make films with us who were supposed to move out here and then dropped out at the last second. But like we had movies with decapitations and exploding heads when we were like 15 or 16. So we're learning how to build this shit. And then I'm also learning how to shoot it, because even in professional scenarios, the effects don't look how you're expecting. And I think that's also why a lot of effects don't look good, is because some directors just don't have the experience of like, how am I going to shoot around this? Or, okay, this is what's been delivered to me. How am I going to figure out how to shoot this and get this? So then it either looks like shit or they add in some CG. But because we were fucking 15, 16-year-old fucking stoners making effects in a kitchen, in our parents' kitchen, I learned how to sell them by shooting kind of around them. So that's also when I'm building up scenes and building up these big effects things, when I'm writing and designing it in the screenplay format, like I know how I'm going to shoot them and how the effects work, so how I can pull certain things off, That's how in Jimmy and Stiggs, like, something like that ending with the fucking multiple amputations in like one shot. And it's like, I knew how to do that, and I knew all the tricks, and that thing cost like $300 to do, because I know how all this stuff works. And I think that just coming from that world where I was building everything myself, and so into that, it made me learn all of the positions, which then allows me to direct the positions better. I was like the DP on all my shorts and then the first 2 movies, and now I can direct a DP better. And then like, I was the production designer on Jimmy and Stiggs, and we shot Christmas Bloody Christmas. I had already shot like half of Jimmy and Stiggs when we got the money for Christmas Bloody Christmas, but because of my production design experience doing Jimmy and Stiggs and designing all this stuff and figuring out how stuff works, I was able to direct a production designer on Christmas better, which I think is why that movie is amped up in that regard. So I feel like it's the same thing with effects. A lot of people just haven't experienced doing this stuff, and effects is like this weird thing where I feel like people don't know how it works, so they just take what they're given.
Right.
And I do know how it works, so I'm not going to take how it's given, or I'm going to exclusively storyboard, or I'll even design how some of the effects are going to work and then tell the effects people like, here, this is how you're going to do this. So yeah, it comes from just being in the bottom seed and like figuring out all these things. And, James Cameron always said, I want to be able to do everybody on set's job better than them.
Yeah.
Because then you can direct. That's not, and people are like, what a fucking asshole. It's like, no. So, and like
Well, no, if you know how to do everybody's job, there's
Yeah.
no excuse other people could give you as to why they can't do it.
yeah. And then, when I finally hired a DP, and I still, even though I have a DP, I operate camera on all my movies. I'm the A camera operator. And when I was trying to find a DP, the thing that people kept saying was like, well, I don't want to be a glorified gaffer. You're telling me what it's going to look like, and you're going to be the camera operator. And then when I finally did work with DPs who were nervous about that, they're like, oh, this is so much better because you do know how to operate. You do know what you're talking about. And then it allows me to give them so much direction that they're not like figuring it out from the ground up. Everybody has a unified vision. And then they're actually just like frosting the cake and like adding the little accentuations, which then makes their work look better because now they can they're not building a scene up. 80% of it's all the way there. So now they're working on that 20% shine.
Yeah.
That's going to make it really pop. So yeah, that's kind of my school. I also, James Cameron was a huge influence when I was younger. And just his approach to filmmaking, him and Peter Jackson and Raimi. So like, that's why I like operating the camera and doing all that stuff. And like, it's fun to be there on the camera. And then like, you just look to the actor and we're in a space like this and everybody else is fucking 50 feet over there. And you're just on the floor with just the actor. Like that's fucking, and you could change the camera angle you're working. It's like you're 4 people on a floor. That's where the movie's made.
Right.
I don't want to be on a fucking monitor. Oh yeah, Doc, can you move the actor? And it's like, fuck that. It's like, and then the 50 people behind you, they don't know what's going on. So the actors feel more at ease because it's like, yeah, we're in a private space where it's just me and the director working, and I'm not like yelling from 50 feet away, like, could you move to the left 6 inches this time? Yeah. It's like, no. So I think you just get more raw, intimate things about that, and people feel closer. And then another thing about all the curse words too is it's so funny because I just swear so much in my life, and in my scripts, like the swearing is actually probably only half of what's on screen, but because I get so intimate with my actors and they start to like hang out with me and feed off of my energy there, and I have this improvisational quality to some of the scenes, they're adding so much of this swearing to it. And it's like, yeah, see, it is realistic because they're literally just sponging off of me, and they realize that these characters are spin-offs of me, and they realize how I talk, and then it actually just infuses it even more. So these actors are elevating it because they're there and like inhabiting it and organic. So it's so funny when people bitch about that shit. But yeah, I think it all comes full circle is like learning all that stuff, being able to direct it better, and then just being there in the center of the action.
Right.
I love doing that shit, Like on Jimmy and Stiggs, that scene I was talking about, I was literally operating the real chainsaw, and, I had my leg bent like this with the fake leg over me. So I'm cutting like within 2 inches of my leg, and I have, and I'm operating because the camera's attached to my body. And then I've got like a little fucking tube in my mouth so that I can blow to like make the thing pop like this. So I'm like and I'm trying to operate, I'm trying to act. So my hands are there. I'm using a real chainsaw to cut off my leg, and I'm running the effects. And it's like, yeah, nobody wants to do that shit. Like, but to me, it's the most exciting fucking thing in the world. Like,
yeah,
you're like, that's awesome.
Well, that's the most badass way to do it, man. And that's why your shit's so fucking punk rock. It's not like corporatized. It's all you, and you could tell that it's all you when you watch your movies. I mean, you have this sense of like world building, specifically in Christmas, Bloody Christmas. Like when you see that town, you're like, fuck, I wish my town had a record store like that.
Well, it's also funny too, because then, another complaint you see is it's like this, what kind of record store looks like this in a small town, or this is unreal. And it's like, yeah, but it's a movie. It's a robotic Santa is not realistic, but yeah, it's a movie. You're in my fucking universe. And you know what? That's how I want the town to look. And I want the record store to look like that because you're in my fucking world. Like, yeah, you know what? It is unrealistic. And then, people are like, what is this unrealistic apartment with neon everywhere? It's like, motherfucker, that's actually what my apartment looked before I shot, you fucking moron.
Right.
So don't sit here and try to sass me and be like, well, that's not real. But like, yeah, so I am projecting a fucking fantasy of a movie. And I'm not looking to make a realistic movie. Like I'm looking to make a dream-like fucking dream, a nightmare. Yeah. So
what was the inspiration behind an animatronic Santa?
Because I was obsessed with Terminator, I always wanted to make a killer robot movie.
So it's like unstoppable. Or harder to stop, rather.
Yeah. And I also love the idea of working with animatronics and figuring that out. And I just thought it looked really cool. And I always also wanted to do a holiday slasher. And it just came together to be.
It was initially a Silent Night, Deadly Night remake.
Yeah.
You pitched it, got denied. So you were like, well, fuck it. This is unique enough to where I could write my own script.
Well, I got denied because they were like, this has nothing to do with the original, and the Silent Night Deadly Night fans aren't going to be happy. And it's like, well, A, Silent Night Deadly Night 4 has a killer robot in it. So this fucking moron hadn't watched any of the movies, but also B, like, I am the fan base for Silent Night Deadly Night. And I'm telling you, I don't give a fuck about the storyline.
Yeah.
What I care about is a guy in a Santa outfit fucking killing people with a cool ass name and that poster of a fucking axe coming out of the chimney.
Yeah.
That's what Silent Night Deadly Night is. Like, it doesn't, you're actually going to try and follow that plot. Like, that's what's important to you.
Yeah.
So like, it's too different. And then afterwards, I'm just like, you're right, it is too different. I'll just slap another name on it. And I think I sent you the pitch and the script. And I'm like, look at the pitch.
Yeah.
It's a fucking same movie.
Yeah.
So I barely changed shit. And, and then we got twice the budget that I was going to have for that remake to do an original movie where I own the IP. It's bigger.
Did you prefer it that way?
At the end, yeah. I mean, I was pissed I didn't get the movie at first, but then once it's like, oh, wow, this is way better than what would it have been.
And who
like.
were you pitching it to originally for Silent Night, Deadly Night?
It was actually at the time, the people who had the rights were the producers on VFW Fangoria. had the rights.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And then that leadership of Fangoria imploded for a
Right.
bunch of different shit you can find online. But, and then the rights like went to whoever made the new one.
Yeah.
So I
Did
don't
you
even know
watch
if
it?
they hired anybody to do the version I was pitching on. Maybe. I can't remember. But yeah, I watched the new one. It was
Did you
fine.
like it?
Yeah, it was fine.
I'm not even qualified to speak about it because I didn't see it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, it's fine.
But you're right. Like, Silent Night, Deadly Night's not like some fucking gripping storyline that you need to keep faithful,
Yeah.
And that's why I fuck with your movies is like, you don't necessarily follow a specific formula. You just do what you think is cool. And you play it straight too. We were talking about this a little bit last night. Like an animatronic Santa is kind of like a ridiculous plot point, but you play it straight. So it comes across as fucking horrifying.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these movies too, where people are trying to make like 80s style movies, it's almost like they're afraid or they don't know why they like the movies, or it's just another insecurity thing where it's like there's so many movies and it's like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Look, we're
Yeah.
making an 80s horror movie. Let's show everybody that we're in on the joke. This is fucking stupid. And it's like all those amazing movies from the 80s, those people weren't making them as a fucking form of satire. They were
Right.
making, and it's like Terminator. It's one of the best quotes that has always stuck with me. One of probably my favorite quote was from James Cameron, where he's like, ultimately, I was making a slasher movie with a robot.
Yeah.
It's a fucking B movie. He's like, but we're going to approach the material like it's an A-list fucking Godfather style movie. And that's what, gets everybody on board. So yeah, if I make a movie about a fucking director who's in his apartment doing drugs, like I'm going to play it like it's the fucking Godfather. I'm going to play it as straight as possible. And I like that for movies because then the comedy and the ridiculousness comes from that, of how ridiculous it is. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to make the audience know that you're in on the joke. It's like, also those movies aren't a joke to me. I'm not ashamed to be making this movie. I'm fucking proud to be making a dope ass shot on film killer robot movie, motherfucker. Like I'm not gonna,
Right.
dismantle my own like of these things just because.
Well, the town you guys had for it was fucking perfect. And I love the story about that. Like you literally had the entire town to yourself.
Yeah. And me and my producing partner, we were driving because we wanted to shoot in California for sure. We just wanted to be close to LA, and because a lot of the crew is coming up and the effects, like I was going to have to be close to be able to check in on the effects and stuff. So we found like these, I don't even know how many, maybe we looked at like 10 or 15 towns all through Northern California, which went on a road trip. And where we shot was the very last one that we visited. Like I was like, oh man, there's not a lot of hope. But then I found that and I'm like, it was so perfect because then the toy store was in the script, but there's a toy store right in the middle of that strip. And the dude's like, you guys could shoot here for free. And then there was like all these empty buildings, like the record store was an empty building that was just sitting there. And then right next to it was the police station that was just empty sitting there. So like we had, you could walk everywhere on the fucking set. And besides the house, I was kind of far away. And then it was $99 for a 3-month permit to shoot. Like, so we
Wow.
could just shut down the fucking street at night. You just needed to pay a cop his hourly wage to be there.
Yeah.
And we had the whole fucking town. And they're just like, yeah, just don't blow anything up after 11 p.m. We're fucking blowing up ambulances at like 3 in the morning, fucking shaking windows. But they did not give a fuck.
Right.
And we're also bringing, that's a $2.5 million movie. We're bringing a lot of money to the town. We know we're using local catering, local hotels, local Airbnbs, hiring locals for the below the line positions. So they were awesome. And yeah, let us do whatever the fuck we wanted. And it was like, it almost seems like I wrote the script for that town. but I didn't even change anything in the script
Yeah.
to like fit location wise.
Was it put on Netflix?
It came on Netflix actually this past Christmas season, but it was on Shudder before that because it was co-financed by AMC Networks, not the movie chain, but basically the company who owns like IFC and RLJ and Shudder. And then so like Shudder and then RLJ split the cost. So it was like a Shudder exclusive. But then it was also cool because Netflix just licensed it. And I guess that Shudder had been trying for whatever a while, like to license the movies to Netflix. And when Netflix finally agreed to do it, like, well, we're picking the movies. And they picked Christmas Bloody Christmas to be one of the 4 movies. So
Did you see a bump in views
I don't know how to gauge that. I saw a bump in Letterboxd
reviews?
like watches or whatever. Because I was curious. I was like, I'm going to pay attention to see. But then also, I feel like there's probably a lot of people on Netflix who watched it in Middle America who don't log it on Letterboxd, you know. But if they renew the license, I'll know it did well, and then maybe I can, because I always wanted to make a sequel to that movie. Maybe we can get that going.
You got a couple of sequels in mind. I think you were talking about a sequel for Jimmy and Stiggs too, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen now that the movie fucking flopped. But
it flopped. So it's interesting to hear that though, because from my perspective, Jimmy and Stiggs was all over the fucking place.
Yeah, no, flopped is the wrong word. It didn't. I made that movie in my apartment, and I thought it was going to be a smaller type release, like go to Shudder or something, and then we got the deal where it was like we're going to come on all these theaters, and it just obviously didn't do what anybody was expecting to, myself included. But when I was under the impression it was hopefully going to make more money, I wanted to do a sequel that was like Evil Dead 2 style.
Well, you died at technically, spoiler alert, you died at the end of this one. So I was wondering how a sequel would even be written.
Well, I had a couple ideas. I didn't really know which one I was going to go with, but I didn't go down. But now I can just say them because obviously it's not going to happen. But one of them was that the movie that we saw, Jimmy and Stiggs, was actually the movie that my character in the movie made about what happened to him. And then the aliens come back. And then another idea I had was what happened in Jimmy and Stiggs was his memory of what happened. And then the sequel is him actually shooting the movie version of what happened on a big soundstage with like my apartment, like all doped out, like even bigger. And then the aliens kind of take over that set in production.
Right.
So it's going to be like something along the lines of that, where it was meta, but Matt could come back and obviously I would make it too. But yeah, we never got that far.
But let's go back to you talking about how it performed under your expectations.
Well, and also just for context, if the movie just came out and did what it did, and also like I shot the movie in my apartment with my friends. It's a success. It came out in theaters nationwide. We had merch and Hot Topic. I mean, way bigger than I ever expected it to happen. But there was like a period of time where we thought we were gonna have a bigger release theatrically. Thought we were gonna do 1,500 screens.
How many screens did you get?
Like 600.
Oh, okay.
Which also seems like a lot. But then the thing is it's like, you look and we're playing 5 screens in Oklahoma in some shit town, some small town with nobody goes to the movies. And we're playing in like 5 theaters there only at midnight. So it's like, well, obviously nobody's going to go see that. So to me, it's like, oh, well, I wish that I didn't have that point in time where I was like, oh, I think that maybe this movie, because, we were all looking, I mean, when I say they, like I was excited and thought maybe it was possible too, but it's like, oh, we're looking at like In a Violent Nature or Late Night with the Devil, these movies that made $3, $4, $5 million, and we made like 150 or 120 grand or something, which again is a lot. And we're in malls, and this movie in my apartment that I'm starring in, and I got merch at Hot Topic. So yes, it is a success, but I had unrealistic expectations in the couple months leading up to, because we're launching a new company and all that stuff, but it was just a lot of elements. I mean, ultimately, Jimmy and Stiggs is not a movie that is a mainstream thing. Like,
right.
Definitely. And it
like
probably shouldn't have been that type of release. So like that's the, it's kind of like grass is always greener on the other side. Because if I didn't do that, I would have been like, oh man, we could have released a movie 1,500 theaters, but now it's like, oh, we should have done this release. So you just never know. And everybody wanted to be bigger. And it's not for lack of trying, because you said it was everywhere. Like, I was out on the fucking road show, and like I was, definitely not for lack of trying, but ultimately, yeah, there's not.
They were pumping it on social media, dude. And like, forgot. It was getting some pretty good trailer placements. There was a few movies we went to see.
Yeah, we were in theaters and trailers, which is awesome. Like
Yeah.
I never had that before.
Well, your voice on the tape recorder was like the main part of the trailer. So it's funny. Every time I hear your voice, like even now while we're doing the show, it just reminds me of the trailer.
Yeah, see, well, now when I watch the movie, I know my voice, and I'm like, oh, is that what I fucking sound like? I sound stupid as fuck.
No, you have a very specific cadence.
Yeah.
You know?
That Polish, New England little dialect to it.
So is
They
that what
bring
you
it-
are? You're Polish?
Yeah, well, half Polish.
Nice.
Polak. As you can't tell by my fucking giant nose. It's so funny because we were making fun of, like, all my friends were making fun of my giant nose when we were shooting because we got all these wide angle shots, you know, and it's like all up in there. And then the poster comes out, and the main poster, it's so funny if you look at him screaming, my fucking nose is like giant fucking, you know.
Yeah. Dude, big nose crew,
Yeah.
you know? Pointy big noses. That's but I heard that's in. I heard some females like that.
I can attest to that. It's also funny. It's you know, and then like I was telling you this last night, my fucking tooth is about to fall out because I smashed it on the movie, and it's just been fucking getting worse and worse. And now it's like pushing out. So if you see my hillbilly tooth sticking out, but it was getting bad, and I had to go in and do the photography for the poster because like they were using images from the movie, and they're like, these don't look that great. Can you take pictures on your iPhone of you doing this thing? I'm like, I'll just come to the studio and you guys can shoot me professionally. So like the images on the poster are me, you know, only a few months ago, like screaming. And so now like you've got my giant nose. And then like, if you look on the thing, you can see my mangled tooth all fucked up in my thing. Thankfully it's not as bad as now, and it's like, it's so weird for me to see that. And like, oh yeah, look, my fucking nose that we were all making fun of during the shoot that I was jamming the camera up, and there's my stupid tooth. And then my voice is like, so it's like, I have this weird thing where it's so hard for me to like watch that footage or.
Yeah. Well, dude, I watched the 2.5 hour long behind the scenes that you guys had. I loved it. It was very Rob Zombie. He did it on Halloween and Devil's Rejects.
Yeah.
I just fucking love that shit because you really get to be there in the room with you guys. But seeing some of the rigs you guys set up to pull off some of the things, I mean, even just smoking weed in a POV position was fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people don't, the Toxin was almost like a little, as you can see, I've always liked that first person point of view stuff because I'm such a big Gaspar Noé fan. But yeah, that's the fun stuff is figuring that stuff out. And then like people are just like, how did you do that? And it's like, it was like a rig that cost $90, you know,
Yeah.
if you actually sit down and think about stuff and how to pull it off. And that's another thing too. Like I think a lot of people look at, you know, with budgets these days, and something I have always avoided is it's like, you look at a script and it's like, well, we've only got this amount of money, so we've got to cut stuff. And they just start cutting stuff or changing stuff without actually figuring out how to make it work. But if you actually figure out how to make it work, there's like workarounds for all kinds of stuff, and you can get away with a lot of really fucking cool stuff. And like for instance, Christmas Bloody Christmas, when I wrote that, it was intended to be a $5 to $7 million movie. So we started shopping it around, and then, you know, when Shudder was going to make it, when RLJ and Shudder was going to make it, the budget ended up being 2.5. And one of the guys who worked there's like, so what are you going to cut out? And I'm like, nothing. I'm going to figure out how to fucking make it work. And we cut out nothing. We actually made the movie bigger while we were shooting it. I wrote new pages and new gags, and we pulled it off for $2.5 million because, you know, we fucking figured out how to do it. Like we sat down, and I sat down, and I'm just like figuring out how to pull this stuff off or shoot stuff. We can get away with it. And I do that in all my shit. And it's like, yes, I would like more money, but I'm not going to turn the movie down because I've only got this amount of money, and nor am I going to rewrite the movie until I absolutely have to.
Right.
Let's figure out how to make it work. And then the thing is when you try to figure out how to make those things work, even if you don't knock it out of the park and you get part of the way there, it's so much better than not having it when you just give up on the front end and just cut it out, you know?
Right.
So,
well, so many fucking people will use that as an excuse, like their budget, or, you know, what I love about your movies is that you shoot them on film. So many fucking people complain about film and how difficult.
and you know what?
expensive it is.
They're all people who have never worked with it.
You're right. Yeah.
I don't sit there and pretend like I know shit about, like, I'm not going to go into somebody else's profession and be like, no, that's wrong because I read something on the internet. It's like, film is, I mean, it's idiot proof. Like,
And is it that expensive or no?
no, it costs us 75 grand on every movie. So, you know, a little bit more
Just
as
in
inflation. Well, that's to buy the film, to scan it, process it, develop it, and get it on a hard drive, which when you get it on the hard drive, you're essentially working with files like as if they were digital.
Yeah.
So that whole process. And also the thing is I'm not like, oh, we only got 2 takes, we have to do this on film. When we first did Bliss, we did the shooting ratio. Me and Josh looked at the shooting ratio of Mind's Eye and Almost Human. And it's like, well, here's what my normal shooting ratio is. So let's budget that for the film on Bliss. And Bliss is a $250,000 movie. And we shot on film in LA. And I wasn't like, we only got 1 take to do this. I was shooting 7 or 8 fucking takes of some of this shit
Right.
sometimes. Like,
Which bars did you guys shoot in for Bliss? 'Cause
So
I think
where
that's
the
a part of what makes the movie look so big is because you actually went on location.
yeah, and like for instance, you know, the bar with all the red.
Mhm.
That was this place called R Bar in Koreatown that we used to go to all the time. They had a Metal Monday, and you know, it's like $1,000 to rent it out, but you have to shoot between 3 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's like my call time was fucking 2:30 a.m. But we got it, and then 5 Star Bar. It was so funny, which is where the band played. They're no longer in operation, but they were basically like, well, we have band. It would be this much to rent out the location, but we also have bands play here all the time.
Right.
So if you book a band here, you pay X amount of dollars to book the band, but the bar tab goes against basically if you sell a certain amount of drinks while you're there, it almost covers it. So we actually walked out of 5 Star. We shot that there. We booked the band. We had it all night, and we put a thing at the front that says if you're walking into this bar, you're going to be on camera. So we didn't have to sign any NDAs or anything. We ended up making money on that location.
Interesting.
Like a couple $100 we made by booking a band there
Wow.
and just having people come in.
So those weren't extras. Those were people just walking into the fucking bar.
Some of them were because only a handful of people walked in, but like, you know, we had extras there. And then especially like they let us work past 2 a.m. And then that time, like we had crew members, like I'm actually an extra in like 3 different shots in that because I just had to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so shooting in real locations, like it's so, and then the driving scenes, like people are so worried about that. We just strapped a camera to the car, big giant film camera. And like Dora's driving around covered in blood doing, you know, sucking stuff off of her back of her hand and drinking and smoking blunts. And
Yeah.
there's a giant camera. And like, we're driving through Sunset Boulevard in the middle of the night. She's wearing sunglasses. We're
Yeah.
passing cops. We did like a 16-hour shoot day. Nobody fucking said anything because they just assumed, well, obviously nobody's that brazen. They must have permits. And we fucking shot. And everyone's like, how did you get those shots? It's millions of dollars. And it's like, we just did it because.
So you stole the shots.
Yeah. And what's going to happen? The cop's going to pull you over and say, stop. You're not going to get arrested.
Right.
Or a ticket. Oh
Yeah.
man, I got to pay a $500 ticket to get all these dope sunset shots of a giant fucking convertible. Like, and people are just fucking pussies about that stuff. So, and thankfully, because I am me and Josh are the producers, the main producers, like there's nobody to veto this stuff. I'm just like, yeah, we're going to go out. Whereas if I tried to do that in a movie like something else where I'm like, we're just going to strap the camera to the car and we're not insured for this. And I'm going to fucking go out there and we're going to shoot. They'd be like, no, absolutely not. And it's like, why? What are you nervous about?
Yeah. Where was her apartment at? Because I loved her apartment.
That was actually a loft that was in like a sweatshop, basically like downtown. And almost all the other rooms in that loft were just like, yeah, like 50 people crammed in doing fucking sewing or making clothes or whatever. But then this guy, we found him on a site because he had that view of downtown with the sun there. And it was just a big white room, open white room. And he would rent it out for photography. So we went and looked at it and I'm like, well, can I paint this place black? Can I put up this fake wall? And we ended up working out a deal and we had it for like a month and we just completely redesigned it and
Yeah.
repainted it. And it had so much production value to see all that in the background, especially with film. You know, I've talked about this like on the Kodak podcast and all that, but another thing people don't realize, digital versus film, is film just has the capacity to like shoot sunlight. Like you can shoot at the sun and everything's exposed. Where if I shot Bliss on digital, those windows would be so fucking blown out
right.
that they would either be blown out like white. That's how you can tell if something's shot on film or digital too. Like if you look at something and it's daytime and the windows are blown out, it's obviously digital because digital can't comprehend, like it just doesn't have the, you know, the bandwidth to get that. Whereas if you shoot on film, we're shooting Dora, the sun is setting, blazing against the sun, blazing against the lens, and we have no extra lights in there. And she's exposed, the exterior's exposed.
Yeah, it's a fucking beautiful
Also, yeah, you just
backdrop
clicked on the Variety review for Bliss, which calls it a masterpiece and says I out Gaspar Noé, which
I think
I disagree, but
do you not think that that's your magnum opus?
oh no, it is. But Gaspar Noé is like my hero, so I don't think I'd made anything close to what he did.
And I love that she had.
But yeah, see, look at that shot right there. Like that, there's no lights there. That would be blown out on digital. And or if you wanted to expose behind, she would just be a ink black silhouette.
Yeah.
But that's just a fucking us just sitting there shooting. We just turn the camera on and shot. Like
No lighting.
nope.
Wow.
Yeah. So like that's what I don't get. People are so fucking dumb with film, and it's like it adds millions of dollars of production value.
You ever hear anybody say they can't tell the difference between film and digital?
Yeah, it's
Like, dog, you don't know what the fuck you're looking
also,
for.
I mean, there are definitely movie watchers who just don't understand. Like, I can understand when film scholars or producers try to say that, it's like, well, if you actually can't tell a difference, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
There is a way. There definitely a lot of like general public. If you ask them to look and decide, they probably couldn't tell the difference. But the thing is, they wouldn't know like the things I'm talking about, where like, oh, the background's blown up, so they don't understand or see that. And then the thing is I also feel like when you have those things in the movie and you could see those things and the way that the film is working and chemicalizing the process and all that, people just subtextually feel more pulled into the movie. Like even if they can't describe it, it has that dreamlike quality. So I feel like it's something, you ask people all kinds of stuff. If you ask them point blank, like they're not gonna be able to tell, but there's just a subtextual quality that draws you in, just like the way somebody's voice sounds, or the way things, like these things that you can't actually pinpoint, a normal person can't pinpoint, but put together, they like give you this force that pulls you into something more.
Right.
Well,
I think the trope of film being more expensive than it may realistically be actually helps, because now your movies just look so much of a higher budget because you shoot on film.
Yeah. It's like I was telling you last night, it's like a game genie. It's like a cheat code.
Yeah.
It makes you look like a better director when you shoot a film because your fucking images look better. Your movie just feels better. It's
and
like,
it covers a lot of the mistakes. You know? Well, like in that scene specifically, you're saying you had no lighting setup. And just like you said, on fucking digital, you have to have lighting.
yeah, or you wouldn't get that image. You'd get,
Right.
Well,
you came in here and you were like, dude, you should knock out these lights and just have the sign light up the room. We're shooting on digital. You can't. We need to drown us in light for their, and digital is not like film, where like the grain on film dances. It looks beautiful. It adds to like the cinematic feeling.
because it's chemical.
Yeah. And on digital, it just looks like shit.
Yeah.
Looks
Oh, yeah,
like
because it's
fucking
noise.
broken
It's not grain, it's
pixels.
noise.
Yeah,
That's-
noise. Exactly.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Well, with Bliss, I didn't watch anything. I didn't watch any trailers. I didn't read anything about it. I just stumbled on it on Shudder, I think. Well, I watched Christmas Bloody Christmas, and it inspired me to go back and watch all your films. And I had no fucking idea that it was a vampire movie. And I hope at least most of the people watching this episode has seen the movie, because the fact that I didn't know it was a vampire movie at all is what fucking blew my mind when everything started popping up. I don't think you had any idea it was a vampire movie either, right?
No, I had no idea.
And so like,
Well, some people even say they still don't know if it's a vampire movie after watching it. They just
I
think
thought
it's
it was almost demon-like. I was
Right.
like, I don't know if it's fully vampire. I think I've seen them in the sun, but everything is usually at night. So
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of demon element type of thing going
Yeah.
on.
what was the bliss they were snorting? It was called
Diablo.
Diablo. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a point where there's no more daylight in the movie. She just wakes up at night, which is a kind of a deliberate thing that,
Yeah.
you picked up on. I'm hoping other people do, but
The ending
yeah, I mean,
is
like she
fucking
is a
affectionate.
vampire. Like, people are like, oh, is she a vampire? I'm like, no, she 100% is a fucking vampire. I'm not like trying to mislead anybody. You know, she's a fucking vampire.
Well, the misleading. Well, I wouldn't say misleading.
I also
but-
never say vampire in the movie,
Yeah.
which I didn't realize. But again, I was subtextually, I guess, just doing it while I was writing the movie. It also just seems so weird to be like, you're a vampire. Like the visual cues are there. So
Well, it was very subtle, because when she gets turned into a vampire, they're having this fucking, crazy threesome. And you really just see for like, a couple of seconds, blood dripping down her neck. And if you have no idea what you're looking for or what to expect, you're wondering why that happened. Maybe it was just a fucking crazy threesome.
yeah.
And then as shit happens later on in the movie, you almost leave it up to the intelligence of the viewer to then piece it together and be like, oh, she was fucking bitten. In fact, in the deleted scenes, you explained a little bit more about the whole vampire part of the movie, because the people who, bit her, there was a scene that was cut out of them getting bit.
Yeah, the opening scene, it was like, I'm a big fan of Joe Carnahan's Narc. And I always wanted to do a foot chase, a handheld foot chase, like at the beginning of Narc. And that's what I did. The deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, but yeah, you see the two other people in the threesome are in the opening scene, and you see that whole thing, and it turns into a foot chase, and then the sun comes up, and the perpetrator explodes when the sun hits him, and then the original title is also called Dragged into Sunlight. So like he explodes when the sun hits him, and then it smash cuts to Dragged into Sunlight.
What was the decision to change it to Bliss?
So there's a band from Europe called Dragged into Sunlight.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And they reached out, and when the announcement came out, they're like, "Oh, you stole our name. It's copyright." And I'm like, "No, it's fucking not." But I was like, "All right, well, let's work something out. Maybe I'll put one of you guys' songs in the background of the movie because I like the title." And these fucking guys, like, they started like the official band Instagram, started commenting on like Dora's Instagram, like, we're gonna rape you, bitch.
Jesus
like
Christ.
fucking awful. And I'm like, I just don't want the my actress to have to deal with this. And then these people, they're like, we're all lawyers. We know that you stole our name. And then I'm like, well, you're not all lawyers, you fucking idiot. And then like at some point we sent over a template contract to like use the name just to make them feel better. Just because again, we could legally use it, but I just didn't feel like dealing with this headache. And these supposed lawyers, they replied back with something, I can't remember exactly what they said, but they're like, well, a couple of our members can't read. So like, and I'm like, I'm just going to fucking this. So then I came up with some other names and we ended up going with Bliss, and I prefer Bliss now for sure. So
Yeah.
it was actually like one of those things that was, our hand was forced, but
Well, because it's
for the benefit.
Yeah, you can't
Because Bliss also doesn't allude to the
vampire.
It alludes to a lot of things in the movie, including the drug, but the Dragon to Sunlight, again, that was like the opening scene. Like I wanted to fucking smash you, because also that's another thing I was always insecure about. If you notice on Almost Human in Mind's Eye, I have that explosive, I have like an opening scene that's like, oh,
Right.
and I just always was like, well, I need to open with something to capture the audience's attention. So that also came from, let's open with this dope ass foot chase and a body exploding. But then it ultimately became, it's like, well, we have to start the movie with Dora in front of the painting and end the movie with Dora in front of the painting. Like
Yeah.
it's Dora's movie. And that was also the only scene in the entire movie that wasn't from Dora's point of view.
Right.
So it also felt weird. And it just, we made the decision to cut it out in post, and both cutting that scene and changing the name were beneficial for
Yeah.
sure.
Piss break. Do it.
I was actually just going to ask if I could take a piss break.
Let's do it. You first. And cue the Grindhouse music. Cheers. Back from the bathroom break.
Are we
Cheers.
recording again?
Oh, damn. The static electricity turned us off. Cheers.
Pissed and farted in the bathroom. You guys recording?
I actually didn't hear it. I wish
But
I
yeah,
did.
but he did on those.
Mm.
That's good.
Fuck yeah.
So what are these cups here for? There's nothing in it.
Product placement, baby. No, I'm just kidding. It's there's a water right behind you. In case you wanted water, I've got mine.
Do I get one of these cups to bring home with me?
Yes, you do. That's usually a quote unquote surprise, but I've got my custom fucking hydro flask.
Do I get one of those too? I get one of those hydro
I
flasks?
wish. I was actually thinking about making a bunch of them.
I got my budget version with a couple of stickers.
Yeah. I got nothing.
Well, not
I got
yet.
my dick
Yeah.
in my hand.
We give it to you at the very end, and a T-shirt, a nice T-shirt.
You got to earn it.
I was gonna bring a T-shirt for you, but I couldn't dig it out early enough.
Dude, what you gave me is fucking Rusty. Can you hand that to me?
Yeah, one sec.
So Joe came and brought a 2 gifts. I got a hat from the tour that you guys did of Jimmy and Stiggs, and tell the audience what this is.
Yeah, so this is a 16 millimeter film can. You guys can see. But what it was this was a film can we used. I keep all my film cans just because they started making plastic ones, and I don't know, I like having the film cans with the thing. But we use it for Christmas Bloody Christmas. So there was, the negative of Christmas Bloody Christmas was in this. But then I used it as a prop in Jimmy and Stiggs because my character's a filmmaker. So I've got a bunch of these stacked in the office. And it was hit with alien blood. So not only is this a can that held negative of Christmas Bloody Christmas, it was an on-screen prop from Jimmy and Stiggs with the blood still on it. So yeah, all that alien blood's still on there.
And it's
so.
one of the fucking coolest gifts anyone could have given me. It's
What
a
I use for-
screen used.
I have one of those. Well, I mean, I've got hundreds of them, but that's like my drug container. So I keep all my drugs in my film can. So
Yeah. So not in the box from Jimmy and Stiggs. That was a nice fucking deep box you had.
Oh, that was a prop because I would have felt weird being in the thing. That just looked cool on screen. So.
But what's funny is that Rusty, when you were coming on, he was like, "Is there any Joe Begas movies I should watch?" I was like, "Well, all of them for sure, but I would start with Bliss, go to Christmas Bloody Christmas, and then Jimmy and Stiggs because I think that was the order." I mean, I watched Christmas Bloody Christmas first, and he's not necessarily a horror guy. I mean, I don't want to say you're not a horror guy. Everybody
No.
loves horror,
Yeah, I've always liked it, but I've never been an enthusiast.
right? And dude, he hit me after Bliss, and I got to tell you, there have been some people who have been on the show. We won't name who. That he hasn't been a huge fan of their movies before.
Oh, yeah, I'm finding out later.
Oh yeah, for sure. But you know, he'll like 1 or 2 of them, but not all of them. But dude, he hit me up and he's like, "Bliss was fucking awesome." Did you watch it with Janelle?
Yeah, I did.
How did
And
she like it?
You know how I know it was good? She never went on her phone a single time during the entire movie.
That's a good
And
sign.
I was looking over and I was seeing her. I was like, oh, good. She's enjoying this just as much as I am. Like
Yeah.
from start to finish.
Because it's
I was
also a visual movie too. You can't you don't pull your fucking eyes away because you might miss a cool ass shot or cool.
Exactly, dude. And
Yeah, I wanted to make something. I like making something that feels hypnotic.
yeah.
You know, I like to
Perfect
hypnotize the person.
Yeah, perfect word for it entirely.
Yeah. It's just drug like what I was telling you, I texted you about it when I rewatched it the other day. And it's like there's a side of LA nightlife that doesn't make it to screen very often because a lot of people don't live that kind of life. You know, these
And if they do, they ain't making movies. So.
exactly, yeah. You know, those 3-night benders and shit.
yeah.
And that was very accurately represented on screen. It gave me like Abel Ferrara driller killer vibes. Like what you did for LA nightlife, he did for, you know, 80s nightlife in New York.
Yeah, Abel's a big influence of mine. I was telling you last night the Jimmy and Stiggs Abel connection. Just because I was such a big fan of Driller Killer, and you know he starred in Driller Killer, so the pseudonym he used in Driller Killer is Jimmy Lane, and then the actual character name in Jimmy and Stiggs of my character is Jimmy Lang.
Right.
So it's my nod to Abel.
Have you tried like reaching out to him? Have you ever talked to him before?
No, I have friends who know him, but he lives in Rome now too.
Oh.
So yeah, I would love to talk to him. I've been to some Q&A. It's so funny. I went and saw a Q&A. They did like a Abel Ferrara retrospective at the American Cinematheque, which is in Los Angeles, and he came out for some of them. And there's people like making a documentary about him right now. So like they're shooting him.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was doing the Q&A, the two people were there shooting, and he goes up on stage and he's like, "What the hell you doing? You fucking shooting that back? Get over here, and you got a long lens over there. These fucking people making a fucking documentary. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, what a fucking badass." But I just read his book too, and it's
Great.
It's great, but it's disappointing is the wrong word because I liked reading it. But like Abel Ferrara is a hero of mine, and Lemmy from Motorhead is a hero of mine who we were talking about right before this. But both of their autobiographies have the same problem where they're so short and skip over so much. And it's like, oh, well, they were both just fucked up their whole lives. So they actually probably just don't have the memories of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And Dangerous Game is one of my favorite Abel Ferrara movies. It's Harvey Keitel and Madonna and James Russo. James Russo plays, I love this movie so much. James Russo is the old guy in Jimmy and Stiggs who, he's on the black and white footage. He's the old alien.
Based on Bob
abduction.
Lazar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was like my Bob Lazar thing. And James Russo was in the Abel Ferrara movie Dangerous Game, and I'm like so obsessed with that movie Dangerous Game. And Abel just does not even talk about it in his biography because he was also so fucked up when he was making this movie. And it's so fucking good. Look at that shot right up there. Like, look at that shot of Madonna with that just haze and that Venetian blind lighting. Oh, it's so fucking goddamn good.
And she looks fucking haunting in that photograph.
Oh, dude, it's like, so the movie, Harvey Keitel is basically playing Abel Ferrara in the movie, and he's directing a movie that stars James Russo and Madonna. And it's just a movie about making movies. And actually that long shot you guys are talking about in Bliss, where it's the four of them at the table under the red light and they're talking. Go back to that shot. I stole the shot from this right there.
Wow.
Look, there it is.
There it is.
So they're talking about filmmaking there. And anyway, yeah. So I'm giving away all my secrets here. I just ripped that off. But watch Dangerous Game if you haven't seen it. It's so fucking amazing. And it's just so industry thing. And it's just Abel's like being on screen. You could see the influence. They're in LA right there. Although my shots look better.
It definitely does in that one.
But yeah. So the Lemmy thing, it's like, oh man, look at that. You're getting me fucking hard over here looking at these shots. You got to take these down.
Harvey Keitel's the man. Rest
Yeah.
in peace, big dog.
But yeah, you guys got to watch the movie. It's so fucking goddamn good.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, there's Russo from fucking Jimmy and Stiggs.
I think Madonna had like I think when she was dating Sean Penn at one point, and she went in, when Sean Penn was locked up, she went in to visit him and locked eyes with the Night Stalker. which I think is very interesting. A little true crime fun fact.
This fucking scene is so good. Like they're in this trailer and it's just this one take into this hazy trailer and Harvey Keitel's a director and he's screaming at the actor and he's like, give me what I need. Do more coke. Drink more fucking booze. Go out and fuck somebody. I don't care. Just give me what I fucking need. You want more fucking coke? Give me what I need. It's like, Jesus. And like they're just both so explosive and it's like, are these guys just like improv? Like, and like you could just feel the tension boiling in the fucking scene. It's so fucking good.
It's interesting to hear this though, because it's like these are the movies that shaped what we see in your films today.
Yeah, like that could be a shot from like you could see the Bliss influence in Dangerous Game.
Right, for sure. For sure. I mean, I like I said, Bliss was just fucking brilliant to me because it's like one of those movies where you go in not knowing anything and when, you know, the plot is revealed, you're like, "Oh wow, they really fucking fooled me." I thought it was going to be like some driller killer shit because she had the fucking shitty agent and, you know, I think they dropped her in the beginning of the movie and then he comes over when she's already, you know, almost finished the painting and he wants to pick her back up. I thought she was just going to snap and start killing people. And no, it was way fucking better than that, man. You know?
To give you an idea how much I enjoyed it, I had a question for when we came out here. Do you still have that painting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so in Jimmy and Stig, so the way that we did the painting, I hired this guy Chet Zar, who's amazing, and he does you know, Guillermo del Toro like had a big exhibit. Like he does a lot of personal pieces for Guillermo del Toro, a lot of stuff for Clive Barker. But he also used to be a makeup effects artist. He's an amazing artist. And I wanted to hire him. And I was like telling him, I'm like, the painting needs to be like wall size because it needs to dominate the frame. And he's like, no, I can't be like, it's going to take so long. And I don't understand. He's like, I want to it's got to be smaller, especially if, you know, we were paying him not even what his normal rate is. So what he did was the painting he made, it's like, you know, I don't know, let's say 24 by 18 or something. And what he would do is he would photograph it every single day professionally. And it took him 30 days to do it. And then I picked each photograph for the stages that I liked. And we had those printed to the large size canvas. So, and then she would be painting kind of over it. And then he actually went in and painted over some of it so that there was actual texture to it. And so in Jimmy and Stig's in the office, the original small painting is on the wall. You can see it. But I have that in my office, but I also have the full size one in my living room. So it's one full wall of my living room right now. And it's just the whole thing. So and then I've got like the other 7 stages, you know, throughout the movie just wrapped up.
I want that painting.
And well, I also have like, I did the credits for that movie on construction paper cards, like black construction paper with the neon paint. And what I did was we made the paint so runny, and I had these strobe lights that DJs use that they move to sound. So what we would do is we would paint it really thick, and I had it framed up, and then we would lift it up like this so it filled up the whole frame, and then start playing music really loud. So the music would accentuate the flickering, but then the paint would start to run underneath the flickering light. So we shot those titles actually live. Yeah. And I have all those like cards too. Like I have so much shit for my movies. I'm just like, well, I hope I make a big movie one day so I can like have an auction of all this shit, you know?
Yeah. There's a portion in VFW. I think the villains were at a movie theater, right? Like a shut down movie theater. Is Bliss on the marquee?
Yeah. Everything there is, so there's Bliss and then like a couple shorts that my friends made. So they're all like variations of that.
Yeah, I paused it with my girlfriend and I was like, I think that says, because it was just like BL and the I was somewhere else because it was all fucking fucked up. And I was like, I think that's a Bliss Easter egg right there.
Yeah, I'm Easter eggs all over the place. And then in Jimmy and Christmas Bloody Christmas, the astronaut suit is in the record store, as are 2 of the aliens.
Really?
Yeah, they're just props in the record store.
See, I love that shit, man, because you don't get to see that on your first or second watch. But you'll find it on your third or fourth.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, you were talking about how Jimmy and Stig's, well, it performed under, I think, I don't know, it performed under expectations in some way. But I think that movie is something where, you know, there are movies from the 80s that people did not appreciate until today. You know, and I think Jimmy and Stig's is one of those movies. And it's not just because of the content of the movie, but it's the conditions that they were made under during the pandemic, super low budget. And
well, the people who like the movie appreciate it for sure.
Yeah.
I need to get, that's another thing. It's like, well, I just need to make a bigger movie so that these people will.
Well, dude, so many people are trying to save like these art house theaters, which I respect. Like you know, theaters need to stay around forever, but what the fuck? Why isn't anybody trying to open up video stores anymore? Like, do you not believe that?
Well,
like
that's because you live in Vegas.
Right.
There's a bursting video store scene in Los Angeles now.
Yeah,
and there's actually
dude,
like a big
Vegas
article.
sucks.
It came out like a week ago. I'm also just busted. Like this is like a new thing, but like a week ago where subscription service. So like video stores, there are 4 video stores, like big ones in LA, all over the city, and they offer up subscription services because that's kind of what works now. And it's like you get unlimited rentals if you pay $20 a month.
Wow.
So like some of these places now have like triple the members that they've had in the past 10 years.
Like
and
a fucking hybrid model.
yeah. So, and you know, now Gen Z, I guess I forgot, fuck up the generations, but like whatever the people are now who are like 16 to 25 are so much more into physical media and like going to the records. So like, I
Right.
feel like there's this thing with COVID that happened where like streaming dominated, and this is obviously just a fucking hypothesis, but like streaming dominated and people like, you know, adults who grew up with video stores and grew up with going to the movies, it was so much more like, okay, we've done that. Now streaming seems like this new thing and like, oh, that's so much easier. And now we're at the generation that never got to have the experience of going to the movies. So now those are the ones that are propagating like, oh, it's cool to own this thing. It's cool to do this thing because the generation that fucked it over were the people who had already done that. So it was like old news to them. But now
Yeah.
you have this whole new generation who never actually owned that shit, who never went to a video store. And I think that they're realizing, or going to like Minecraft. There was so many people I know because, you know, I don't have kids myself. I'm in my late 30s, but I do have friends who have kids of varying ages. And like Minecraft, for example, people shit on the fact that like, oh, there were people bringing chickens to the thing. And, but it's like that movie, I've heard from so many people, it's like my kids now want like that. They hadn't seen a movie in theaters and now they want to go to the movies all the time
Yeah.
and they want to see this. And like, we just need to get the movies that are going to bring people get out of your house. And so I feel like we are getting into a shift now where it's going to hopefully be on the rise. And then I think
Right.
AI, you know, people are afraid of AI. I'm not for myself. Like I'm afraid of AI, not afraid of AI, but I worry about AI for the industry as a whole. But like for me, AI is not going to make Jimmy and Stiggs. AI is not going to make Bliss. And I feel like there's going to be, this is also just me being optimistic, but like, you know, when TV came out and it kind of decimated the movie industry, you got the 70s where you had all these dope ass filmmakers, starting with Dennis Hopper when he made Easy Rider, and then Coppola came in and like you have all these dope ass filmmakers who are making just sick movies outside of the system, and they're making the rules because people who made the rules before don't know what's going on and they don't know how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Me, I can make a movie from a blank page to a releasable movie from anywhere from $100,000 to whatever budget it is. So I feel like there's not only going to be people who want the human touch on things, especially how we're seeing this generational shift with physical media. There's going to be a point where AI slop is going to take over, and then the next generation is going to start seeing, oh, this is handmade. I can see the handmade quality to this. So I feel like it's actually going to be beneficial in a way.
Right.
I think it's going to be bad for the industry as a whole, but it's going to be beneficial to people like me who can just make these movies without outside help. And
Right.
I'm never going to use like, I understand some people, you know, just putting aside making movies with AI, there are like ways that AI is going to decimate the VFX industry easily. Like
I've never
Just-
seen convincing enough AI though. Like, have you? Anything
No.
that I see AI, I'm like, this shit fucking sucks. And anybody who thinks this looks good is retarded. Or shit, I can't say that word. I almost got canceled last time I said it.
We have a bleep
Really?
function. Don't worry about it.
Beep.
No, I agree. But I do feel like it's going to get to the point where like, you know, and again, to go back to Cameron was talking about this, and it's like AI is good where Avatar will now cost $250 million as opposed to $400 million because the VFX can work so much faster. Like when they're, you know, AI is basically supercomputers.
But
Like,
it still requires people.
yeah.
You know, like you can't just.
So that's, I mean, I
fucking
think that's like
type
an
in a
ethical way to
prompt.
do it. But I mean, nobody's going to want to like, and also like they're talking about people doing AI movies. You can get that shit for free. The copyrights are just so fucked that it's not going to happen. But like people can get AI shit for free on social media. They're not going to go pay to see a movie. They're going to pay to see a movie that, so like there might be this boom where I think, you know, it does take over a little bit, but people are going to ultimately want human stories. And I mean, it's just showing the fact now that these, you know, young Gen Zers are like into, and film is making a comeback. When I made Bliss, dude, they shut down all of the vaults to get film in LA. Like we literally had to order offline and have it shipped to us from Rochester, New York, which is where the Kodak plant is.
Well, it's
and
because
now
it was being made at the same time as like a couple of shows that shot on film, right?
yeah, like, well, Once Upon a Hollywood and Euphoria was shooting on film, and they just like, they didn't have the capacity to keep up with it. But now there's a Kodak house in LA that you can just go to and buy film. Like I would go there on Jimmy and Stiggs and throw my credit card down, and it was like I literally got like, my credit card was so fucking maxed out. I'd try and go buy one roll of film to like shoot some Jimmy and Stiggs stuff, and it would get, declined, and I'm like, fuck, this is sad.
Yeah.
But and now like those people at Kodak, they're just like, yeah, so much stuff is shooting on film now. TV shows are shooting on film now. So like, I'm so fucking glad that it's now like back on the rise again. But I feel like it's the same thing. Like you see kids using Polaroid cameras or like point and shoot cameras, and
like these little 8 millimeters,
yeah. So I don't know. I'm not worried about AI in my personal self, but it's obviously going to fuck a bunch of the industry. But there's always things that fuck the industry. There's sound, VFX. There's no more miniature makers. There's no more matte painters.
It's like
because of
Sunset
stuff like
Boulevard. Fucking Norma Desmond. She wasn't in any of those sound movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that like, it's funny that you're saying that video stores are like on the rise in LA because we don't have any of that here. But then again, we never had the mom and pop stores. We just had like Hollywood Video.
Mm-hmm.
That was up the street from this very house. I grew up in this neighborhood, not in this house, but in the same area. And we had Hollywood Video. I think they were a little bit better than Blockbuster. They weren't.
They didn't edit the movies. Well, the thing that everybody's like, oh, remember Blockbuster? And it's like Blockbuster actually censored movies. Like Requiem for a Dream was the biggest thing because I was 12 or 13 when they came up. But there was very specifically like if you went to rent it at Blockbuster, it was the R-rated version, and the only way you can get the unrated one was to go buy the Artisan Pie Requiem for a Dream double feature at Best Buy. But like no, Blockbuster routinely fucking censored movies, and it was the mom and pop shops in my hometown where like they had the big box VHS or the Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, which like
fucking
literally right on the front,
movie.
it's a black, like that fucking, I say like my parents wouldn't let me rent this when I was a kid, but like when I was 12, they let me rent it. But like the Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer VHS is all black. And then in the center is a very tiny tile and it's a reflection of a bathroom mirror.
Joe Coleman painting. All right, he was on the show.
Well, it was a photograph.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think Joe Coleman did the,
re-release
Blu-ray,
the 4K,
yeah. But like the original poster is like, and I also, that's another thing from Bliss, like that tiny little mirror, like in all the blackness. And at the bottom it says NC-17, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. And then in the back, Roger Ebert's like the most disturbing we've ever seen. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like this is so provocative in just its packaging that doesn't make me want to watch. But then you go to Blockbuster and they don't carry it because of that.
Yeah, it was one of those movies where like, I don't know if you had this experience. Well, I'm sure everybody had this fucking experience, but you'd grab a movie based on the cover of it. You take it home, you'd pop it in. It was nothing like the fucking cover. So you'd get so let down.
But then you have to watch it because those are your two movies for the whole weekend.
Yeah, you got to turn them in at the end.
Or I remember having sleepovers too, and like Bride of Chucky. I was a big Child's Play fan before Bride of. It's so weird to think about. I was 10 when Bride of Chucky came out, but when Bride of Chucky came out, it was like this thing. I was so obsessed with Chucky when I was a kid. That when Bride of Chucky came out, I was like, oh my God, they finally made a new Chucky movie. Like, this is crazy. And you look back and there was like a 4-year gap.
Right.
And, but I remember I had like a sleepover and we watched Bride of Chucky and the movie ended and we rewinded the tape and watched it again.
Yep.
Like,
Dude,
I can't imagine that happening now. Like, because it's like, oh, well, we've got Netflix, so we're just going to put something else. But it's like, we were a sleepover in the basement. The cable wasn't hooked to the TV. We had a VCR and we had The Matrix and Bride of Chucky on VHS.
Right.
And it's like, that's what we're watching. Or we had one game on the PS. So like, just the importance that these things had back then.
We were at an age where it's like we couldn't just stroll into the fucking, video store. We had to wait for our parents to take us. So whatever we grabbed at that time, we had that for a week and that was it. And so like I remember being a kid and being fooled enough at video covers and grabbing it and taking it home and it fucking sucked. So it's like, all right, am I going to grab Evil Dead 2 for the 50th time or am I going to grab this random fucking movie? Usually opted for Evil Dead 2. But there was a novelty to it. It was stuck It's not like you're scrolling through all these movies that you could just watch right there on the spot. You are
and
stuck
change
with this fucking movie.
Another thing too is it's like, all these movies that we're talking about, it's like, oh man, that movie sucked. Like this isn't like anything I covered. But now you go back and you've got people like Vinegar Syndrome and Severin and Arrow releasing these movies in 4K. And because of like how shitified everything's become with just shooting on digital and like VFX, these movies that seem so shitty, it's like, oh wow, this was shot on 35 and the photography is actually really good.
Yeah.
Because they had to figure out the photography. And you know what? This is an animatronic and there's matte paintings. And it's like, this movie actually fucking kind of bangs.
Yeah.
But it's only because of the filmmaking. Like, if you look at it's so fucking bizarre to me because if you look at every industry in the entire world, everything is getting better.
Mm-hmm.
But film doesn't. Every advancement in film has made it worse.
Yeah.
It's made it cheaper and easier, but it's made it worse of a product.
Yeah.
Product is such a stupid thing, but like, it's like Nolan was talking about this, where he's like, digital is like factually and scientifically inferior to film.
Yeah.
Why are we using it? And also in the 1940s, David Lean brought 1,000 people into the middle of the Sahara Desert with 500-pound cameras and shot Lawrence of Arabia. How come we can't use our upgrades in technology now to still make that happen? Because we could do that and it would be so much easier. So if these people were doing that back then, why aren't we doing that now? And like on the Odyssey, that's what he went and did. And it's like, we have helicopters that can bring the equipment to where we need to be. We've got all the shit that actually makes it easier. So why are we not doing? And then you watch these movies like Lawrence of Arabia and it's like, holy shit. They're in the middle of the desert with 1,000 fucking people. You can feel the extras. You can tell when it's extras and when it's digital. So like, why are we not using the technological advancements to
enhance,
go that direction instead of making everything look shittier? Like, I mean, there are things that have gotten like fast food and filmmaking are the things where the advancements have made the product worse.
Right.
So it's like, do you really want to be compared to that? But then, you know, and then that's like bliss. Everything is handmade. Like I was talking about the credits, we hand painted the credits. We shot on film. We shot in all real locations. All of those things are things that people say are impossible to do now. Okay, well, we did it on a movie that cost 1/5 of your garbage ass digital fucking movie that looks, you know, 10 times worse. So people are just fucking lazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know.
Well, I feel like they don't want it as bad, you know? Like to me, you are like the epitome of an artist. You know, like I don't see you as a guy who could just work at a fucking office or do construction for the rest of your life. Like you're a creative. You have to make things. And I don't know. Some people who get into filmmaking nowadays seems like they just want it more for merit, I guess.
They do. It's like an easy way to be a celebrity or something like that. And I don't think people realize that directing is a really, really fucking hard job. You've got 50 people who are looking at you for an answer immediately. You've got millions of dollars or hundreds, at the very least, $100,000 on the line. And like, you're personally at stake for all of it. Like whether the movie makes money or loses money, whether the product's good, whether the outcome is good. And it's just a fucking stressful job. And for me, like I thrive in it and I love making that stuff. And I just, I pay money. Like I paid, you know, there's so many things I could have done with the money for Jimmy and Stiggs, but I put it into the movie. Like, you know, it's $80,000 that I don't have.
I remember you were telling me you sold some shit just to make Jimmy and
Yeah,
Stiggs.
I had like an immense film print collection and I just sold a bunch of them to help make Jimmy and Stiggs. And it's like, that's just how I operate. Like, you know, I just need to be making movies all the time. And I feel like there's a lot of people who just like, they think it's easy. They look and it's like, oh, it's some guy yelling into a megaphone and you just, you know, oh, I've watched movies. I know, I can tell. And it's like, dude, do you know what it's like when you have the sun's going down in 10 minutes and you've got 60 people looking at you for an answer, and the answer you need to give is not only going to make your day, is going to make everybody happy, but is also going to be artistically like good and what you want and is going to cohesively work. It's fucking stressful. So I think a lot of people just get into those positions and they shut down and they let things happen. And that's why a lot of movies are shitty now. They just let things happen.
Yeah.
And we were talking yesterday about cinematography in current movies. And I feel like there's this problem in current day movies where, you know, back in the day, there would be a hierarchy where like you would be a camera loader, you'd be a film loader, and then you would become a camera PA, and then you would become a second AC, then a first AC, then a camera operator, then you'd be the DP. And like you learn how to do all these things by actually doing it from professionals who are above you and they're bringing their knowledge onto you. And also these 4K monitors didn't exist. So you had to like rely on f-stops and exposure and like knowing what works and like just your instinct. And that went to now people go to film school and their parents have some money and they buy them a red camera package and there's a 4K monitor. And now like they never actually learned how to shoot things. They just learned how to make everything look like it was exposed on the camera. And you can see that beautiful 4K monitor. And then there's indie movies where it's like, oh, we're going to hire this guy because he has a red camera that he's going to bring for free if we hire him to shoot the movie. So now you've got a guy who's only being hired because he's got a camera package because they're affordable now. And his experience of learning is looking at a monitor and thinking everything's lit.
Right. Yeah.
So it just looks like shit. Like, no, there's a fucking art to it. And also, like, just because you own a fucking camera doesn't mean you can shoot anything. You can light stuff and you could look at a monitor and be like, everything's lit. So that's good, right? That's what Netflix looks like. But there's no actual craft to learning it and like learning from actual professionals.
Yeah.
And like, so I do feel like that's also a reason why a lot of stuff just looks so fucking bad now.
Yeah. Well, because it's just fucking point and shoot. You know, when you're shooting on film, you're looking through a viewfinder.
Yeah.
You know, you don't really know what you have until you get it developed. And that's a whole fucking process in and of itself.
Well, and also like there's now too, and then you can, because you have the 4K monitor, you've got execs like, well, that looks dark. And it's like, before it's like, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want. We're going to light it how we want. It's going to be dark as fuck. Gordon Willis is like, I'm going to make this ink black everywhere. I love when we're at 70s movies and you have your calibration of the fucking TV correct, because so many people now just have their fucking calibrations fucked up. But it's like the ink black of the shadows blends into the letterboxing or into the, like, that's how fucking movies should look. They should be that dark. And back then you would have a fucking world-class cinematographer who would be like, trust me, this is what it's going to look like. And then 2 days later, that's the footage. So, but now you've got people on set or like execs on set, and it's like, you can give live notes because you can look at the 4K monitor at the same time. So it just loses that art form because there's an immediate thing where everybody's looking at what you're doing now and can comment on it. And I think that's really bad for just artistry in general. But I do feel like it's almost, because everything became so much easier now, people are like unwilling to actually learn the process of doing things.
And
then like with VFX, it's like, oh, this didn't work out, we can just add CG blood. And it's like, David Fincher can't do CG blood right. What the fuck makes you think you're going to be able to do CG blood right? I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was saying that it's not even technically cheaper either. Because like when you think about it, sure, it's easier. But like you were saying earlier, like you could lose footage. You could lose an entire fucking day of shooting on hard drives.
Easier than film.
Right.
You have a power outage. The thing gets smashed. A magnet goes next to it. Like I know a lot of people who lost a hard drive worth of days footage. I don't know anybody who's lost film footage.
Well, I think that's what I love about Jimmy and Stig so much, is that it's got that old school flavor to it. You know, everybody compares it to Evil Dead and Bad Taste and Dead Alive or Brain Dead, depending on which part of the fucking world you're from. And yeah, man, I mean, it's just, it was incredible to watch that movie because so many people make this excuse of, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough resources. Like, fuck that, dude. I own my own cameras. I have a cool looking apartment. We're just going to shoot this movie. So, you know, when somebody like Eli Roth hits you up, how does that feel?
I don't know. It was kind of like about time, I guess. I don't know. Well, it's this weird thing where, I haven't made like a giant movie. So I kind of feel like my career has almost been, a flatline's the wrong word, but there hasn't been like a lot of peaks and valleys. So that's another reason too, is that like I felt a little disappointed with Jimmy and Stiggs because again, I thought Jimmy and Stiggs would be like another one of those. And then Eli, which is obviously like amazing, but it was like, oh yeah, now we're ready to launch. Like this is your movie that's going to launch this. And like, then it just does the same as the other movies. So it's like, yeah, it's cool. And it also validates, what I was saying where like a filmmaker, because Eli too is like, he is an exec at the company that bought the movie, but also he's talking to me about shots and like how we pulled off shots. And it's like, oh yeah, you obviously recognize what we're doing and understand that. So like that. And then, there's also that thing where it's like, we're going to put it on 15-inch screens. And I'm like, that's awesome. But it's like Jimmy and Stiggs. I'm all in, sure. And then, you start to think about like, oh yeah, well, all these other ridiculous, like Terrifier. I mean, obviously we never thought we were going to be Terrifier, but ultimately that's a movie that when it first came out, it's like, well, this isn't a mainstream movie. So you never really know what people want until they get it. So, there was that. It's like, well, if he sees this and, maybe there is a bigger web that we can cast with this movie beyond like my fan base. It's interesting. Like Letterboxd, I think is a good gauge of where like, not even just looking at reviews, but logs, like how people watch your movie. And it's like a good gauge of where you're at. And you can like look at other movies in the same realm. And my first two movies have the same amount of like logs. And then my last four movies have like the same amount of logs. And it's like, okay, yeah, now I can see that I've plateaued. I've at least had my fan base, but like now you're looking for that next thing that's going to like bump it up so that more people can see this stuff, So no, that was awesome. And that felt great. And, he obviously did, he was trying, he believed in the movie and was trying really hard to get it out there, but
dude, he put his name behind it probably more than any other movie he's done. I mean, like they did
because it's the best one.
Right. Yeah. Well, they did like Dreamcatcher afterwards.
Dream
right?
Eater.
Dream Eater. I didn't watch it, but, he wasn't very involved in the marketing of that movie. I think he said a couple of things, but like, dude, he was fucking on board with Jimmy and Stiggs.
Yeah. I mean, he's also like shooting a movie. I think like, 1 week Jimmy was released too. So he got involved in all that stuff, which again, too, it's like, well, I wish I had that's the thing. Is like, well, I completely it's like a dichotomy of like, yeah, of course you're making your movie because I've been there and I understand you can't be here for this, but it's also like, well, also it'd be cool if you were here to promote the movie when it came out, you know?
Oh, you mean like on the tour that you guys did?
Yeah. Stuff like that.
He didn't go to one?
No, he was shooting.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was you and Matt Mercer.
No, it was just me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, because Matt was on the poster you guys did. I thought he was there for all of them.
But also Matt has like an actual day job as like an editor and, you know, but they came to some, like Matt and Josh came to some of them, but they didn't do the whole roadshow. I mean, a lot of the roadshow was just me by myself carrying this 200-pound fucking case, doing 20-hour days.
You brought one of the aliens
brutal.
too, though.
Yeah, I brought like 3 of them. I had like this 6-foot by 3-foot guitar case. So I weighed like 200 fucking pounds. And, you know, I'd have to bring this onto the plane. I'd wake up all hungover at like 5 a.m., have to fucking go. It's like, man, I wish I had a roadie. This would be so good if it was a roadie.
I think the most talent I've seen in that movie, obviously beyond all of the cinematography and the writing and, you know, just the story alone, was the fact that you didn't get any fucking noise complaints.
Yeah, well, I had like 7 years of pre-production for that with my neighbors, you know, having huge parties at my place with 100 people. But yeah, I mean, I can't move out, you know, my place is rent controlled and I can make a movie like Jimmy and Stiggs and no noise complaints. So,
right.
Yeah, that's my spot.
You didn't get a single complaint? No. Nobody knocked on your door and said, hey, what the fuck is all this screaming?
Nope. Not at all.
That is amazing.
And I'm on the second floor too.
You have some cool fucking neighbors.
Yeah. My neighbor below me, I'm sure he's never going to listen to this, but if he does, I'm sure he might appreciate it. But
shout out
to my neighbor
neighbor
below me is this great mechanic. He does, you know, he's keeping my car alive. And we got an ambulance from Christmas Bloody Christmas that like we bought. So we owned it, but it was shit to bed and I wanted to sell it. So I'm like, hey, I've got this ambulance parked across the city at my buddy's studio lot. Like, can you come and take a look at it? So you can tell me if it's fixable so we can fix it. So we're driving across Hollywood and he's like, oh man, you really know these streets well, huh? And I'm like, yeah, I know these streets well. What, aren't you from LA? And he's like, well, yeah, but you know, I was like away for 25 years, if you know what I mean. And I'm like, away for 25 years, like in prison? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what'd you fucking do? Kill somebody? He's like, yeah.
Ooh.
And I'm like, holy shit. And like, there's like this nice family who lives downstairs and he's the brother and he came in. He's such a fucking awesome guy. And he tells me the whole story. And it was like this thing that was self-defense. And he was this poor Mexican dude, like a public defender, and all got fucked up. He went to jail. But he was telling me, he's like, yeah. And I thought I was never getting it out. And I realized, you know, my cellmate got out because of good behavior. And I just turned my life around and I became this mechanic and I did all this stuff. And I was like, fuck, that's fucking crazy, man. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, dude, so you were at San Quentin, like in maximum security? Not San Quentin, I forgot where he was. I'm like, did you know like any, like famous inmates? He's like, who are those? This was before the Ryan Murphy show. This was like 3 years ago. He's like, who are those two brothers who killed their parents? And I'm like, the Menendez brothers? He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, man, I was in prison with one of them. You know, I was in both of them for a little bit, but like that little brother, man, he's like a pussy. Like, you know, he got all fucked up. And then he was telling me that Lyle Menendez, he's like, that dude like ran the prison, man. Like he was fucking this Playboy playmate and they ended up getting married and she would come in and they'd pay off all the guards and like they gave like the guards like big screen TVs, like, and he was running a drug operation from, I'm not going to say my buddy's name, but like, so I'm going to have to censor this, but like, and he's telling me that Lyle Menendez was like running a drug operation, like using like false FedEx stuff through Mexico. And he was basically running the prison. And
Holy
like, because
fuck.
he had the last name of Menendez, but he wasn't actually Mexican, like he didn't know if he should be a skinhead or Mexican. That's why he's all bald. I mean, he was bald at the time, like when he went, but like now you see him and it's like, he had to basically like kill people to like become in with the skinheads. And he's telling me the story of how like Lyle Menendez killed all these people and he's running this drug operation. And then like a year later, the Ryan Murphy show comes out and everybody's like, justice for Lyle Menendez. And I'm like, that motherfucker he is not a good person.
Dude, we
and like
got
the poor brother, like the little
Right.
brother, the guy was like, he's such a pussy, you know, so I feel like he felt bad, but he was talking about Lyle Menendez like a fucking just like boss running that jail and like fucking Playboy playmates with $1 million drug operation. I'm like, and so then he's telling me all this stuff and we go to check out the ambulance and he gives me like the diagnosis on the ambulance and then we're driving back and he's finishing the story and we get back to my apartment and he's in the middle of telling me this and he's like, all right, man, well, we had fun. Good thing. And I'm like, there's so many more questions I have for you. And then like randomly, you know, he was helping me fix my car like a year later. And he's like, man, you sounded like you had a banger party up there last night. I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh man. Yeah, don't worry about me, man. It's like, no matter what happens, you got this asshole next to me who's always calling the fucking parking authority on me. You having big parties. It's all good, man.
Yeah.
Every day I lay in bed and I just think to myself, this is better than being in a cell. And
Do you
I'm
ever
like,
invite him?
yeah, I buy him beers all the time. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you should just come up and
Party.
Oh, you want me to move forward? I'm drifting out of frame. But no, he's fucking awesome. And hearing that whole story just like from somebody
Right.
is so involved in that. And then also, yeah, like, we know the Menendez brothers so well because we're, you're versed in true crime and so am I. So to have him be like, who are those two brothers? And then just tell me this offhanded story about this crime empire. And then everybody trying to get, Kim Kardashian, they need to get off. And it's like, I wish I could tell that. Well, now the story's out there, but whatever.
Well, we got hit up by their lawyers who were behind that whole, free the Menendez brothers movement. And they wanted to come on the show and like promote this whole ideology that they're innocent and that their dad fucking raped them and shit. And I don't know, I couldn't get behind it. I was like, it'd be an interesting story, but like,
well, even if the dad raped him, the dude was 22 and ripped. Like, move out.
Dog.
You know what I mean?
Like, you fucking slaughtered your parents.
Move the fuck, like and he's like, our parents hated us, but they were still sending us to Princeton. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. I remember being 22 and I certainly had the mental capacity not to blow my fucking parents' brains out. Like,
well, dude, hearing those like inside stories for like these different serial killers in prison are always so interesting. Like there was this death row inmate. I think he beat death row. Like he got off of it, but he was talking about being locked up in San Quentin with the Night Stalker and Lawrence Bittaker, the Toolbox Killers. Have you ever heard of them?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, fucking horrendous. Like they would play these. They played these tapes in court that had like legitimate, like just bystanders walking out, throwing up, crying. But I guess Lawrence Bittaker and Richard Ramirez ended up becoming best friends with each other. And they would peddle porn in prison. So they would sell porn. That was like their thing to not get their fucking asses kicked.
yeah.
They would just sell these porn magazines. And the guy was talking about how he went to go, shop what Richard Ramirez had. And as an inmate, you are legally able to request all of your crime scene information because if you're fighting, if you're still on defense and you're trying to get out of prison, which he thought he was innocent the entire time or denied what he did the entire time, he would cut out these images. Have you ever seen the crime scene photos of Ramirez?
Yeah.
Haunting. Very fucking brutal. But he would cut out these fucking images and paste them next to his porn magazines and just inscribed with like bitch and cunt and slut and all the things that he famously said to his victims. And hearing those inside stories and how these people were still like what we think of them, what their archetype is, that they were those people locked up with their fucking cellmates is very interesting. So to hear that about the Menendez brothers is fucking insane. Did you end up watching Ryan Murphy's show?
Yeah.
So I thought the Dahmer one was really good. There was a couple of made up things, but whatever, it's fiction. They have to make it more entertaining. The Menendez brothers, they fabricated it a little bit more, I kind of fell off towards the end of the season, but the Ed Gein one I thought was fucking terrible. It was interesting, but it was terrible.
So both the Dahmer and the Ed Gein one, I only made it halfway through because they start out strong and I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I did watch I think I finished the Menendez brothers one. If not, I didn't watch like the last episode or two, but like the Menendez, the thing that's interesting to me is everything before they get arrested. So like on episode 3, when they get arrested, it just becomes less interesting to me. I like seeing them like plotting the murder, or I like seeing them like blowing all the money, like worrying about the cops on their ass. Like that is more exciting to me, like making the uncut gems of fucking, the Menendez things where like they're spending, like they're blowing millions of dollars and the press is on their ass. And now, because if you look back at like the tabloids started turning on them at the end. And like, I feel like there's so much more cinematic quality to like watching them freak out.
Right.
As the tipping time bomb. And then like we all like, I don't need to watch 7 episodes of the court process.
Right.
With them. Like with OJ, it was different because the court process was so interesting with that. But with the Menendez brothers, I think it got less interesting once the court process started. So that was my thing with that. But I did like the movie. I mean, the show.
Now, I don't want to give it away because you told me this off air, but one of your next, I don't know if I want to say it, but can we talk about one of your next projects?
I mean, it's just something I'm writing. I don't know if it's going to get made, but
it sounds really interesting.
It's set in LA. It's like a serial killer in LA, like the fever dream and the tabloid culture all coming into that. And somebody getting sucked into that web.
What is it set? Like 70s?
No, it's current.
Oh, okay. Current.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was writing my dream project is a werewolf movie, which, you know, we talked about and is out there otherwise. But I said in the early 90s, and it's just like making something in LA that's period costs a lot of money. So, but I also love shooting in LA, and I want to shoot in LA more. So it just made sense for this to be set now, but also like, you know, like I was talking about before, where it's like, this is my universe. I can kind of take liberties what I want. So I'm fusing in the writing process a lot of the tabloid tawdry culture of the 90s with like Weekly World News and the Globe and all that shit. And like, you know, hard copy. And I'm just kind of giving it like, I'm mixing it with current day stuff. So I'm giving it like all those things I like about that period of time, like unsolved mysteries and music videos and all that shit. I'm just infusing into my movie because it's like, realism's out the window. We're making a Joe Begas universe movie where, everything is hazy and covered in neon and
Begas cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to see it though. Like especially the werewolf one. I mean, because you already did a werewolf short.
Yeah,
so
werewolf's my dream thing. It's just, it's expensive to do properly. And also, you know, my thing is so different. Like there's so many other elements beyond the werewolf that make it expensive. Like being set in early 90s LA Sunset Strip metal culture is
Why didn't you need a good transformation scene? Like I feel like if you're going to do a werewolf movie, there has to be a fucking good transformation scene.
I have 3 of them. All 3 of them are different and things that haven't been seen before. Whether they're good or not, we'll see. The audience can decide, but I know for a fact that there are things that haven't been done before.
And has that been written already?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's fucking finished. So what's stopping you from going and making it? Just funding or?
Well, in all honesty, it's just to do the movie properly, even on a low budget, it's like a 10 million plus. So I don't think it's productive to pursue that movie now. Just because ultimately I don't think I have the power to make the movie how I want. And there would be sacrifices in that movie that, you know, like I was talking about Christmas to Christmas, the sacrifices to that were me figuring out scenes, but like there's so much involved in this movie where $10 million is like, it should be a $40 million movie, but I can do it for 10.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to like sacrifice that stuff because a lot of it is the LA early 90s lore and that whole media landscape and the MTV landscape and the grunge scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to shortchange that movie. So I do feel like I need to make a couple of other movies, and that'll be my movie that I make if something ever hits or I escalate up the ladder to be able to do that. But I just feel like it would be in the best interest of that project to like wait till I can do it properly or a little more properly.
Right.
You know? So yeah, but I also like, you know, Bliss I shot in LA and I fucking loved it. I love shooting LA, and Jimmy and Six I shot in LA, but like because it was my apartment, I couldn't actually take into consideration a lot of the things I love about shooting LA. Like I did shoot as many sunsets as I could. And if you notice, you know, there's always a sun setting outside the windows, but like I want to shoot another movie properly in LA. So it's just kind of by nature has to be like a current day thing. So the next few scripts, actually the next, like the 2 things I'm trying to get made right now that are like at the stage to hopefully get made are both set in LA.
Yeah.
And I just feel like people don't shoot LA well, you know, like there's a lot of those Blumhouse movies that were all shot in LA. There's still a lot of indie movies that are shot in LA, but like they're just shot in what looks like Airbnbs that are unproduction designed with blown out digital, which in LA where the sun is such an integral part of the atmosphere in the world. Yeah, you just blow out the line. So that's why it's like with Bliss, it's like I love shooting the skyline. I love shooting the setting sun. I love shooting Sunset Boulevard. I love shooting these LA clubs. I want LA to be a fucking character. And people don't do that enough. So
it's like Lustig in New York.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'm very hard set on shooting my next few movies in LA, and they're all like very specific. They're not like a script that you could transplant to another city. They're all like very specifically LA.
Yeah.
And the infrastructure in LA and like the jobs in LA and, you know, entertainment based and all that.
Yeah. Well, especially the 90s one that you have set with it was like a girl band, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, all of the fucking music venues that you could use down there would be so badass.
Yeah, because the Roxy, the Troubadour, the Whiskey, they're like
Viper Room.
Yeah, they still exist in there. So that's actually how I wrote, like the Sunset Strip, like from the outside when you're driving down it, yeah, it looks different, but like Musso and Frank's looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Jones, been there since the 90s, Dantana's, the Roxy, the Rainbow, the Troubadour, the Viper Room. So like there are a lot of ways that you could get this to get the 90s LA vibe without like spending a lot of money. But then it becomes, if you're going to shoot in the city, there are certain parts of the city that look correct You know, I actually think Ty did a pretty good job with Maxine because that was like in the 80s, and
Yeah, he did
they
a great
found
job.
little pockets where they could make that work. But you know, I want to put that on overdrive and really make a movie that just LA is the character. Like Heat in Cincinnati doesn't fucking work, but it's not a movie about LA, but it doesn't work in another city as well,
Right.
you know? And I love LA. Everybody bitches about LA. I don't fucking know why. It's like, it looks beautiful, movie capital of the world. Everywhere you go is like something part of history, like fucking hottest chicks, the best drugs, the best fucking, like it's music, like every band comes through there.
Yeah,
So-
my buddy Scott Michael says it's like living in the world's biggest trivia game. Like everywhere you go, it's like, oh, this is where this movie was shot, or oh, this is where this person died.
Yeah, and people I think take for granted the weather is always like the coldest part of LA is 52 degrees in the
Well, it's
winter.
just become politicized. And we were talking about this yesterday. Everything today is now so fucking politicized. It's insane. You know, LA is an objectively beautiful city. I think it's my favorite city in the country.
Like I go back home and I've got all these friends, you know, who are like living in small town fucking Rhode Island, you know. They're like, oh, how's LA? You know, smoothie boy. And it's like, you mean how is living in 7-degree weather with hot chicks everywhere and cool? Like, what do you mean? Like, it's awesome. How's living in this shitty fucking town, motherfucker? Like,
I think a part of that's jealousy, though. You know, so many people have a dream of moving out to LA, and it's fucking expensive, man. Like, it's not easy to move out to that city. You know, like what we're paying for this house here is like what we would get for a fucking 1-bedroom shack built in 1940 in LA.
you know, but then that's why you live in Vegas with no cool repertory houses or video stores.
Exactly.
Or Musso and Frank's or.
Well, you kind of pay for the environment out there, you know?
No, totally. And the weather.
Right.
And yeah, like I don't ski and I don't swim, but there's a beach and a fucking mountain that you can ski on and a desert, all
Yeah.
within like 30 fucking minutes of where you live. You know what I mean?
Do you fancy a good theme park? You a theme park guy?
I'm not like a theme park guy, but I enjoy them.
Yeah.
You know, Halloween Horror Nights I go to every fucking year. I actually prefer the theme parks in Orlando because you know, growing up on the East Coast.
Well, which theme parks in Orlando?
well,
Can't say Disney World. I think Disneyland shits on Disney World.
really? See, I preface this. I haven't been to Orlando in like 20 years, but we used to go there when I was younger because we're on the East Coast. But like when I came to Disneyland for the first time, I was like, this is lame compared to Disney World. It's so tiny. And Universal, like it's cool that we're in Hollywood at Universal, but I mean Universal Studios and
Yeah.
Islands of Adventure in Orlando are so much cooler to me.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess there's probably a nostalgia thing where I grew up as a kid going to those. But I do like I love going to that shit. You know,
I think Jimmy and Stiggs would be a fucking sweet haunted house.
you could easily make a haunted house as just the apartment. I mean, the Mystic Museum. You told me you had the Mystic Museum guys here, and I built an installation there. That was basically my apartment. It's so funny. It's like my apartment's an art installation. Everybody's made, you know, before I made Jimmy and Stiggs, everybody would make fun of my apartment. I go, a fucking bachelor pad frat boy, not even frat boy, like bachelor pad college, fucking, like drug den. But guess what, motherfuckers? My drug den is an art installation.
Dude, I don't know. I've been making excuses to not move there. In fact, you know, this studio, now you could see it. We were talking about it a little yesterday. But when I first built the studio, it was in our apartment. And to replicate that in LA would be very easy. But we found this house. It was on the market. It's fucking huge studio space. I think you're already, you want to top off or no?
Yeah, top it off.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know, man. I'm just making excuses. We'll be out there for sure. Once the show gets a little bit bigger and we have like more of a reason, because getting guests out there is so much easier too. You know, because everyone fucking lives out there. People will respond and they'll say that they're down to come on the show. But the moment you say like, oh, okay, cool, we'll cover your flights too. They're like, wait, flights? Like, oh yeah, we live in Vegas. They're like, oh wait, I don't know if I could do that commitment.
Yeah.
You know, because we're talking to a lot of these horror icons who are used to every time they leave town, they're making $5,000-$10,000, depending on who they are. You know, I heard the Screamcast could make fucking $250,000 in a weekend, which is pretty insane at some of these conventions. So,
I don't think that's true.
well,
I've seen lines for unnamed people where they are signing an autograph every minute of an entire day and they walk away with 80 to 100 grand, which I'm not like detrimenting. That's fucking crazy. But like
yeah,
Schwarzenegger like makes $250,000.
it
That's
also
like,
depends on how much each autograph is. You know?
think about if you spend 100, if you charging $100 an autograph and you do one a minute, that's $6,000 an hour.
Yeah.
So even if you did 8 straight hours, it's $48,000 times 3. That's $144,000 for a weekend, minus the cut of all that stuff. So like
the manager.
I feel like the most you can make is $100 at $100 I don't know. We're getting into semantics on this, but I'm just like thinking like that $250,000 sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
But, whatever.
Well,
Fuck
hey,
do I know?
It could be fucking exaggerated. That's a Hollywood thing to do. Boost the value of their clients. Well, that kind of fucking gave it away. I'm gonna have to beep that. But yeah, man, I'd love to move out there and just you capture the LA vibe so well, and the fact that like you weren't born out there. I mean, you've lived out there for a long time.
I mean, half my life at this point. I'm 38.
Yeah,
I've lived out there for almost 18 years.
Yeah, you
and you don't remember like the first 6 years of your life, so technically it's probably been half of my memorable life.
Right. Yeah, we just went to Lynch took me to the Beverly to watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I haven't seen very many movies on film. I think I did when I was younger. I think you were saying that
like anything like 2012 was kind of when it changed over. So, whatever, in the early 90s and 2000s you were seeing stuff on film. And that's what I was going back to saying, like, we're one of the only industries that is going backwards in the quality of things. The projection's worse. The tools are worse that are being forced upon us. And thankfully, the numbers are like, when something gets released on film, the numbers are, dude, we, so for instance, our opening weekend on Jimmy and Stiggs, we did like $80,000 or something, $80,000. 20% of that was from, out of 700 theaters, 650 theaters, 20% of that was from our 2 theaters where we played on 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
And the other 80% was from, so all 20% of our money came from 0.01% of the theaters that were projecting on film.
God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. There's just something special about it. The grained dancing and, you see these fucking random little splice marks and, you're literally watching celluloid being dragged through a fucking machine. And, it's a whole different vibe. And you were saying that they switched to digital in 2012, but it's funny because everything before then, it was just normal. It was just going to a movie. You didn't notice any kind of difference, but it took us going to digital to then recognize what we're missing out on like actual film. So I'm hoping that things start to revert. I don't think it's too late to go back. I think there is a possibility where these, we were talking about it earlier, like these movie stores, they're coming back in LA, but I feel like if a Blockbuster opened up here or like a fucking Hollywood Video, it doesn't matter how corporate it is, it would do really fucking well.
I agree with you. And also just for shits and gigs, I looked up video stores in Las Vegas and big surprise, most of them are porn.
Fuck yeah. Well, there's Zia Records, which
most of them are what?
Are porn. Adult video stores and whatnot. Like if that's not the most Vegas thing ever.
You're right.
Peepland looks dope.
Which porn?
Do you guys have any porn theaters in LA and Las Vegas?
No, dude. The closest to like a true movie theater we have, I think it's called the Tropicana Cinema, maybe, or it's the theater on Tropicana, but they show like the Rocky Horror Picture Show once a week, and they do the whole show with it. Yeah, Tropicana Cinemas.
No, I mean, do you have any porn theaters?
No.
I mean, they're definitely some of the like adult stores will have videos playing and stuff.
Yeah, little jack off fucking booths.
Yeah.
Me and my girl were waiting. We went to this Mexican place in LA. We like salsa and beer, and there's a porn store right next to it. So we're waiting, it was a wait at salsa and beer. So we walked over to the porn store, and she had never actually been in like a fully operating porn store. And, they've got the back room with all the video things. And like every the place was empty besides me and her, and we're looking at everything. And then like every 10 seconds, there'd be a guy coming out of this back room, and he would put like lotion in his hands and like, or like, the bacteria, whatever the fuck, what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
God, I feel like an idiot. What's that shit that the
lube?
No, like to wash your hands. It was big during COVID. Sanitizer, fucking retard. But they would come out with sanitizer, they'd wipe their hands and like wipe it off. And my girl's like, what are they all doing back there? And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're not familiar. Like they're just jacking off, watching like a TV in a little booth. And she's like, why?
Yeah.
Because, there's this whole generation now, it's like internet porn. You just watch it on your phone. But it's like, I don't know, maybe they got families at home and they live in a small place, but like that was a thing. But like even still now, like there's little stores in LA, and it's like I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, these things are good coming out. That's the reason why these stores are still open, because dudes are going back there and jerking off in the fucking little back booth like the old days. And I love the fact that still exists.
Well, there's got to be something exhilarating about doing it in public, not in the comfort.
Yeah, just
of
ask
your own
Paul
home.
Rubens,
Yeah, exactly.
Also, what a piece of shit.
Rest in peace.
Like what a piece of shit who called in that call on Paul Rubens. Like,
Right.
What is that loser up to now? Fucking asshole.
Dude was just jerking his meat. Fucking give him a break.
But also Paul Rubens could have afforded a VCR. I don't understand why he just wasn't watching it at home.
I think it was the exhilaration of doing it in public.
Yeah.
But the Beverly is doing like a whole. They did last month all pornos, and now this month they're bringing it back.
Yeah.
The Eros theater thing. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing like that in Vegas, man. And that's why I think LA is such a special city to me. It's like it embraces film culture. It's almost like a religion out there. And, that's what sucks about Vegas. Like we were passing by Horror Unleashed, and you were like, how is that place doing? Not very well. Vegas doesn't have culture. Like Eli Roth opened up the Goratorium out here. It was pretty fucking sweet, man. Like it was a solid haunted house. He had this bar called the Baby Doll Lounge, and there was a bunch of baby doll heads cut out, and it was just in this fucking awesome mural on the wall. And it shut down after a year. They weren't making enough money. Granted, I kind of blame it on Eli. Why are you going to choose a place that cost fucking $4 million a month in rent to open up a haunted house?
Is that what that was? The rent was $4 million?
Dude, so we passed by it yesterday. It was where that Bubba Gump shrimp was. And they split it in two. So it's Bubba Gump and Rainforest Cafe. Of course, Bubba Gump and Rainforest Cafe, like how much they have to make a month in fucking food.
Are they doing? Like how could, is Rainforest Cafe making $2 million a month to fucking justify that?
Rainforest Cafe's lit, man.
I'm not, I am a Rainforest Cafe fan, but I'm just saying, are they really pulling in $2 fucking million a month? Like,
I think so. You get, because the throughput in a restaurant is like tenfold what you could do in a haunted house.
Yeah.
Like with Horror Nights, I don't know if you've been recently.
I went, this past year.
Dog, they're overselling the shit out of tickets. So when any house you go into, it's like, hurry the fuck up. They've got people with whistles.
I actually do, like what I do is I hang back. Like I'll tell my girl, I'm like, just get back. And I'm like, and you get these people like, hurry up. And I'm like, I'm not trying to get scared. I'm actually trying to look at the production design because you guys recreated Halloween 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I also paid $400 for my front of the line ticket. Dude, we paid $400 each for a front of the line ticket. Thankfully, my birthday's in October. My girl got us tickets, the VIP tickets, and we showed up.
The RIPs?
Yeah, whatever the fuck it is. Where you get to the front of the line.
And you get the buffet and shit?
We didn't get the buffet.
Oh, shit.
No buffet.
Yeah.
We had a buffet of our own beforehand. We got way wasted and went in. And like, it's crazy to see just being there, like 50% of the fucking people there had Terrifier merch on. Like, Damien is cleaning the fuck up. Like, good for him.
Yeah.
And but the second thing is, dude, so she got those VIP tickets for us, which gets you to the front of the line. We got there right when they opened, and we left 2 minutes before they closed, and we just barely did everything.
Yeah.
And there was no downtime.
Yeah.
Like we would go to and get a cocktail, but like we were jumping everywhere. And like you're even waiting 30 minutes for some of this thing, and it's just like, and then you see Terrifier 3 and it's like a 210-minute wait. Yeah. And it's like those face value tickets are even $100 to start, and you're waiting 3.5 hours to go to Terrifier. And then, these people who are obsessed with this movie, you're on the set of Terrifier that's so exciting. Like, now it's worth the money. And then you've got some fucking asshole like, hurry up, go through. And it's like, no, I want to live in the fucking room.
Right.
Like, I want to live in the shit. So like, Universal's so overpriced, but I mean, like,
that's why
fuck,
but
I also like, well, Knott's is cool because it's got the old school thing that aren't IP based. So they've got more things. But the thing about Universal is because it is like your catalog, I'm not going there to be scared. I'm going there to be on a set of the thing recreated by Universal technicians.
Yeah.
That's what the selling point to me is.
Right.
Or like getting a fucking donut that is expertly looks like a Jason mask, like that's what I'm going there for. But it's like so fucking ridiculous that you spend $400 and you could barely get through everything, like waiting in line. And and then we would like go and get drinks and fucking slam shots, and we'd be all fucking buzzed. And then by the time we got to the house, we're like sober. So it got to the point like where, I was wearing this jacket, and we would get drinks and we would hide them in our jackets so that we could like bring them into the, like,
because they
load
don't
up on
allow you,
drinks. And then like I would sneak blunts in And the thing about the blunts is like there's a Walking Dead walkway where it's all haze, and if you walk through the haze smoking a blunt, nobody realizes you're smoking the blunt.
Right.
But I do love Halloween Horror Nights, but they're so unbelievably overpriced.
Have you done 17th Door? Dude, you have to check that out. We got to pull up 17th Door.
Is 17th Door the one that's in the strip mall, like in northern Los Angeles? Because that one I've done.
The strip mall, I think, is what's it called? I know what you're talking about. It's in Thousand Oaks. Is the one you're talking about? No, that's not.
That one's really good. That one's actually fucking solid.
Fucking great, but it's very Knott's like, you know.
And also, it's so far. Like you get all it's like an hour away. I don't want to fucking.
That one is Reign of Terror. Is what you're.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so just let's play a trailer for 17th Door real quick. It's batshit crazy.
A trailer. They've got trailers now for.
Dude, they had a whole show for it too. Wait, I don't think our audio is connected, but it doesn't matter. 17th Door, baby. Yeah, fuck it. Just click on that and let's just skip through it.
Where is it? In LA?
Parts. Yeah, it's right next to Knott's. They moved it a couple of times. So they suffocate you. Try and like scroll to a part where you're getting behind this plastic sheet. They put bugs on you. You get shocked. And some people say, yo, this is too much. I don't want anybody touching me, but I'm fucking desensitized. I almost
Dude, do you remember, like, I can't remember what the situation was, but Darren Lynn Bousman opened up a haunted house a while ago in LA. And like, there was this whole thing where you had to sign a waiver where it was like, you might get touched or this or that. And there were like all these fucking bloggers who were like, I will not consent to sexual assault. And it's like, then don't go to the haunted house. Exactly. Like they're telling you what's going to happen. If you don't want to do it, like they shouldn't be shut down. Well, and then like you actually go to the things and it's like not even that bad. Like they're actually so overbearing to protect themselves. Like you go and it's like, yeah, there's like somebody like moving you to another room and it's just like, scare the fucking shit out of me. Like, well, things need to exist that not everybody needs to be happy with. Just if you don't want to fucking do it, just don't do it. Like, exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm so desensitized. It's almost like you need to literally rape me for me to get scared.
I'm gonna scare you tonight.
Okay. I'm gonna beep that. And he's laughing too. He knows what we're talking about. Dude, there's this part where they suffocate you. Well, fuck it. This is going on too long. But the point of this is that it's an extreme haunted house. They literally straight up electricity. They'll shock you. Now you could get a mercy pendant. You could pay $50, or I think it's like 15, not 50. But it's a little thing you wear around your chest that tells them, hey, this person doesn't want to be touched or literally be put through pain. And so they'll allow you to do that. I think that's it right there. Oh, wait, that might be the shock room.
Why is this chick working out? Like, you got to work out when you go? Oh, that guy, hope he doesn't drop the soap. Yeah, don't drop the soap, buddy.
And then this part right here, they put these masks on you, and then other people, so
what is with this girl they keep showing who's like boxing and like getting.
Yeah, I know. What the fuck? Oh, she's doing a lat workout. That's nice. That's probably one of their characters. They're very serious about their characters.
Oh, The Weeknd is there.
That's being shocked right there. They're literally being shocked. So the whole point of this haunted house is to basically take it to an extreme level. So I give a big shout out to 17th
You've
Door.
been there? It's good?
Yeah, it's fucking
incredible. The thing with the truck fucking speeding in, like, dope.
Well, did you go to haunted houses as a kid?
Yeah. But like we also, like, because I was in Rhode Island, we had these ones where it's so funny because I haven't been to the haunted hayride in LA in a while, but like incredible. 7 years ago I went and it was garbage, but
now it's incredible.
That's what I hear. But like, it was so funny because we're up there and the haunted hayride is going like 2 miles an hour. Because they don't have the space, and you see like the guys chasing you and like they're trying to go slow. But when I was a kid, you'd go fucking 20 minutes into the middle of the fucking wilderness, and then there would be like a big opening, and like you're actually in like a gas powered hayride. The motherfucker's hitting the gas, and you got guys chasing with chainsaws, and all you can see is stars. And there's nothing for 20 miles in any direction. Like that was scary as shit. So now I come to these hayrides in LA. So like that's why in the LA horror experience, I prefer like when the houses are built in its interior thing, and then back home we would do things that were like actually way out in the wilderness that actually you got that freakish feel. Like there's this place called Spooky World.
Spooky World,
which was my introduction to that stuff. But dude, like it was crazy because at all the malls around me when I was a kid, they would have actual animatronics, like, and they would have Spooky World installations to like promote it. And there'd be animatronic skeletons playing fucking rock shows in the middle of the mall. And it's like Spooky World, and you would go there. And that's the first time, like, when I went when I was like 8, and Kane Hodder was there, and Linda Blair, and George C. Wilbur, who was Michael Myers in Part 6. And it's like you would do this Spooky World experience, and then you would come out at the end and you have Kane Hodder. Like, I still have the Jason mask he signed when I was like 8, and I've got the post from Linda Blair and and all this shit. And it was like you were out literally in the middle of nowhere, and you've got people dressed in Hollywood style makeup. Like, so as an 8-year-old, you're seeing a Hollywood level Jason Voorhees chasing a fucking, you know, a hayride where like they're hitting the gas and going as fast as they can. The guy's running as fast as possible. Would freak me the fuck out. Then you're dumped out into this thing, which now is so normalized, but it was a big barn.
Right.
And it was nothing but horror memorabilia. And then Kane Hodder signing autographs and George C. Wilbur. And I was like, this is heaven. And now, I don't know if it's just because I live in LA, but like there's so many stores where you can, or online, you can get horror memorabilia. But when I was a kid, like Spooky World, you would wait for horror stuff to happen so you can go get horror memorabilia there. And then like when I was like 15, like Rotten Cotton and this other stuff. So like you might even have missed this, but there was a point in time when I was like in middle school, it was actually like niche to get a Halloween shirt.
Yeah.
Or like a Friday the 13th shirt. Like you had to dig to find that stuff. But now you can go to the mall, like you can go anywhere and get a Friday the 13th shirt. So like going to Spooky World and the way that this stuff was so concentrated, it was like a shot of, it was like chasing the dragon. Like people talk about heroin. It was like the feeling I got when I injected Spooky World into my arm that first time. And
where was that right there?
So it started out in the middle of, it was not Newton, Mansfield. And then it went to the Patriots. It was behind the Patriots Stadium, wherever the Patriots play. But like you would park at the Patriots Stadium and then you would go way back into the woods behind that. So it started in Mansfield, which is the first place I went to. And then, but like, and I actually, so there's this place, Dark Delicacies in LA.
Yeah.
They're not open anymore, but it's a horror bookstore. And I went there like 6-7 years ago and they had all the Spooky World original shot glasses that they were selling at Spooky World. And I was like, what's with these shot glasses? And Dell, who owns it, he's like, oh yeah, the guy who owns Spooky World just dropped all this stuff off. And I bought, dude, so I've got like shot glasses. This is all the original Spooky World art.
Yeah.
And I got all that shit. Yeah, look, there's Dell right there. This fucking
Well, that's what I
badass hair.
fucking love about, well, Hayride to me isn't much of like a haunted house. It's more of a vibe.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. So being on the haunted hayride, you're going 2 miles an hour, and it's cool seeing LA, but it also like, it's actually, it kind of takes away from it because you're going so slow. You can see LA, you're distracted by the glittering thing. Where like being in a hayride where you know this guy's going as fast as possible, you can see the guy running full speed.
Yeah.
It was just like such a world that I had never been introduced into.
Yeah.
And it's like, I almost don't know if it's better that I got these concentrated like heroin shots of horror back then, because I try to think about now being like 11 or 12 in middle school and like going to Hot Topic or Spencer's and being able to buy merchandise for all these movies. So that didn't exist when I was a kid. So like, it's like you go to Halloween Horror Nights, like, man, everybody's wearing Terrifier stuff. That's crazy because I went to Halloween Horror Nights when I was 12 and nobody was wearing like horror merch. It was like, for me, that was my opportunity to get a Jason shirt.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's just like shifted to now where something like Terrifier, which is huge in its own right, but wasn't even as big as like Elm Street or Friday the 13th back in the day, but it has such a merchandising thing where you can just go and get this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, is it better that it was concentrated and we had to seek it out and made it feel more important? Or is it cooler now that it's so congested and like overflowed?
I think the nostalgia of it, like when we look back on it, the fact that it was kind of like this coveted thing, not everybody was into it, made it feel more special. But I kind of like that it's so accessible now. Because, you know, growing up in middle school, like if you were into horror movies, and I fucking hate saying this because it's such a trope and everyone, you know, feels this way, but you were kind of like an outcast. If you listened to a certain type of music or if you had certain cutouts on your binder, you were, you know, considered a fucking weirdo at the time. And now it's like almost cool. You know, people like it. But
Dude, I was in my early 20s. I was definitely like, I would wear horror shirts and like, yeah, it's like I would immediately be the signal, like, oh, for like chicks or something, you know, trying to like, you know, and it's like, well, I'm not going to like, this is me. I'm a metalhead horror fan. But now it's like, and you know, I'm in my early 20s and nobody's into that. I look like a fucking weirdo. But now it's like, So you got, it's like all these people who are in their 20s and I'm like fucking banging ass chicks who are like, you know, model-esque, who are like in their 20s wearing horror t-shirts. And I'm like, where the fuck was this? Why wasn't this real when I was a kid? Like,
I think it was horror conventions, dude. Like horror conventions.
Well, horror conventions when I was a teenager was kind of the place you went to like die. Not die, but like when your career died, you'd go there. And it almost was like when I went to horror conventions as a teenager, I would go there to get horror memorabilia or stuff like that. And it was cool to see these people, but it almost felt sad in a way where now, you know, like residuals have disappeared, but horror has also become such a mainstream thing where it's like cool to go there now. And like you go there, when I was a kid, it would be a bunch of old fat dudes, like, you know, walking around with oxygen machines and like a Jason shirt. And now it's like people in their 20s and 30s, like fucking,
hot
you know,
goths.
like models walking around, like male and female, like fucking ripped, fucking cool looking people, like walking around with this stuff, like a badge of honor. And it's like, well, was I too late? Was I too early? But I am glad that it is going more into the mainstream like that. And there was a point too where it's like, is it so mainstream and like so homogenized now where we're not going to get like an actual horror icon? And you know, it's cool that like Saw and Terrifier have kind of come through and, you know, made new horror icons, I guess.
I think it's possible, but like I just went and watched Scream 7 and it was such a fucking letdown to me. I was so excited because Kevin Williamson was directing it and you can't get closer to the source other than Wes Craven himself. And, you know, it was just like, fuck, dude, I could have written a better movie than this. Anybody could have written a better movie than this. I think in my review, I put your Uncle Remus could have fucking written a better movie than this. And it seems like for some reason. But also,
you say that, but think about this. And like, I thought Scream 7 was fine. It wasn't like great. It wasn't bad. But like, everybody quit that movie. They had to rush into production. Kevin Williamson had to be paid a bunch of money with a gun to his head to rewrite this movie in like 4 weeks. So like, also, like there was so many elements at play where it's like, oh, anybody could have written a better movie. But like, if you think about the actual situation, it's like you got 3 weeks to rewrite the movie, despite 3 actors dropping out and doing this. We're going to production on this day. You got to fucking do it. Like, there was just so many things working against that movie. Where when I went in, I think my expectations were so low because of all that I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I mean, it's not the best Scream movie. It's not the worst either. But like, there was just. You know, and a lot of people are talking too about, you know, Wes Craven, like Wes Craven would have hated this fucking movie. But if you go back, Wes Craven hated Scream 3 and 4 because there was so much people, you know, Weinstein's getting involved, all these people getting involved, and like Wes didn't get to make the movie he wanted to. So I feel like that's been the kind of the thing with Scream. So like a lot of people are just like, well, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. But it's like, do you know how many elements are in place when you're in installment 7 of a franchise that's $1 billion franchise and you've got 9 people with guns to your head with a deadline ticking, like, but also like that's his own fault for putting himself in this situation, which is like, you're doomed to fail. Like I wouldn't want to be in that situation. That's why Christopher Landon dropped out, I think, because it's like he had a gun to his head and it's like, I've got to figure all this stuff out. Meanwhile, everybody's giving me death threats, you know, which also is so funny because Scream is like, we're the wokest people, the fan base ever. But if you don't agree with us, we're going to send death threats to your family and fucking dox your kids. Okay, cool. Well, I guess, you guys are real fucking woke. And so, and it's like Melissa Barrera got fired for speaking her mind. She shouldn't have gotten fired for speaking her mind, but you guys are now saying that you're the people who are on the side of, you know, free speech, but now you're telling the director that he should kill himself and doxing him. Like, you guys are fucking insane.
Right.
So
I don't know if you feel this way. I just feel like it was the worst Ghostface reveal of all fucking time. What they led us to believe would have been much better than what we ended up getting. And I get it. I mean, there's only so much they could do, especially with a franchise like Scream, where the climax of the movie is always who is the killer.
Well, see, I see people bitching about the killer reveal a lot, which I don't disagree. It's fucking weak, but has there been a good killer reveal since part 1? They're all disappointing.
I thought 2 and 3 were pretty good.
Yeah.
I like 2 and 3. A lot of people, I like.
But again, there are people who come out of like, you know, with Scream 7, they came out of nowhere. It's like, oh, Billy Loomis's mom came out of fucking nowhere.
But that was very Argento. That's what I liked about it. You know?
I also don't know if this is true or not. You know, it's all conjecture, but I've heard, I was too young at the time, but like, you know, people talking about the past. Supposedly the killers in Scream 2 and 3 were different when they started shooting, and the killer got leaked, so they were forced to change it. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, but
I think at 3 it's definitely true. 2, I think maybe one of the killers was altered. I mean, it could be bullshit, but
Right.
also like there's just no way. I feel like it's like M. Night Shyamalan. It's like after Sixth Sense, I've got to have the twist ending, and at a certain point, it was handcuffing him.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the Scream thing, it's like almost like maybe give us one where we see who the killer is in the opening scene.
Right.
And then have fun watching everybody else try to guess who it is, but the audience knows. Because it's always more interesting, too, when the audience is ahead of the characters. Like Alfred Hitchcock has this great thing where it's like, if you've got 5 guys or 4 guys playing at a poker table and there's a bomb underneath the table, is it more intense for the audience if you watch a poker game for 15 minutes, not knowing what's going to happen, and then the bomb blows up randomly and you get that shock? Or is it more interesting if you watch the opening scene and you see somebody go in there and rig a bomb underneath the poker table, and then you see him leave, and then the poker players come in, and the audience knows for 15 minutes they're just watching a poker game that has no other repercussions or no other anything going on, and the characters don't know, and the audience is like, when is this bomb going to blow up? Where it's like what Scream did so good was you didn't know who the killer was. So like, instead of just trying to have a surprise killer the next time, switch it up and have it be a surprise to the characters, but have the audience in on it. So like, if you know who the killer is, and then it's so much more fun to play with those scenarios where now the killer, who the audience knows is the killer, is being introduced into situations with main characters where the characters don't know it's the killer. It gives so much more tension and dichotomy to those scenes. So if Scream 8 has it, I'm going to fucking lose my mind. So
Well, they're definitely making it. I heard that they were trying to hit 60 million on opening weekend. And
the projections were like 30 million and it made 60. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but then the problem is so many, it's hard to tell too what the actual word is on Scream 7, because I feel like there's so many people who have political opinions about it or this and that, where it's like hard to get a gauge. But then I have friends like you who are like, well, it actually wasn't that great, who I know aren't politicizing what they're saying. And then I have other friends who I know aren't politicizing what they're saying, who, like, when I went to go watch the movie with a bunch of us, we all kind of had the same thing where it's like, that was fun. It's not the best Scream movie. It's not the worst. But
They upped the ante on the gore, and that's what I appreciated about it. Like when Alex, she didn't go to the movie with me, but she was like, well, did you like it? And I was like, what sucks is like, I literally liked 50% of it. Like legitimately, 50% of the movie was fucking perfect to me. I thought it was great. Like the opening sequence, I don't know. The problem was with the ending and what ended up happening, it made a lot of other things not make sense. I'd hate to say it because it's a spoiler alert, but anybody
at this
at home,
point, if you haven't seen Scream 6 in theaters,
Turn it off.
You Scream 7, you didn't care. Like,
Yeah.
nothing.
But like the boyfriend, you know how he had like the AI thing on his laptop and shit? It's like, okay, what was that about?
Well, when she gets in the car and the laptop's just sitting in the passenger seat open
Yeah.
on the render screen, she's like, what is this? But then also it's like, it wasn't even the reveal. Like, why was he doing that?
Right.
If he's not the killer, that's weird.
And why did they burn down the fucking Stu Macher house if it wasn't? I don't know. It was just it was ridiculous to me. I felt like there was a different.
But also,
screenplay.
if it ended and Stu Macher came up and he's like, I survived, I'd just be
Yeah.
like, cool, well, he survived, whatever.
Well, I was hoping that the real surprise. So like what I imagined, because they showed him like fucking 20 minutes into the movie. So I was like, oh, wow, this is different. Like,
well, there's that ADR line in the beginning where they're like, so why do they still have this house up? And it's just showing like an insert of something.
Yeah.
And then you hear somebody else going to go, well, this is Stu Macher's house. Well, people still say he's alive. No, he's not. Well, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is
right.
awful.
Well, I thought like when the first Ghostface reveal, I thought like, okay, that's going to be Stu because we already know he's in it. And then there's this other Ghostface. And I'm like, dude, fucking make it Emma Roberts. Make it somebody. You make it the fucking neighbor.
I actually kind of thought it was cool. Well, so you're talking about the end reveal, but like in the middle when that guy gets hit and they pull the mask off, they're like, who the fuck is this?
Oh, yeah. That was cool because that was misdirection.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of misdirection. I did think it was kind of fucking corny how, Courtney Cox and the other two from the last movies walk out of the car all heroic.
Also, the references to Scream 6 were like cringe, where she's just like,
Yeah.
oh, well, good thing you missed what happened in New York. Well, I heard it wasn't that good anyway. And it's like,
God.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's funny because we're talking about this and just hearing your ideas about like what would have made it a better movie. I've always said this, but I think like if there's anybody that could remake the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in its like original form, it would be Rob Zombie. But when I think about it, I think you would be a fucking great candidate to remake like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I pitched on one before. I don't know if I would want to remake it, but I feel like making something in the canon would be nice because you can't remake like perfection like that.
Well, I feel like Rob Zombie, I don't know. He got a lot of shit for it because now you got to deal with the fucking fan base and all the purists and shit. I was a big fan of his Halloweens. everybody talks shit to me about it. I'm going to get comments on this video about saying it, about how casual of a fan I am. But the fact that he changed it so much is why I appreciated it.
Well, the thing is I feel like he changed stuff, but also tried to be true to the original. I didn't like his remake, but I think Halloween 2 is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like he should have just done Halloween 2. I think the idea, so like when you talk about remakes of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I feel like you shouldn't be remaking any of these movies because everybody knows the lore. I think that if you just make an installment yourself, so like he was in showing Michael Myers as a kid, like I don't fucking want to watch it. I want to see Michael Myers go through and just kill people. So like he was trying so hard to make that original his own. That's what I didn't like. But then when he just made the overall lore of Michael Myers his own, it fucking like sang. Like that's
Right.
what needs to happen. So like I think like for me, like I'd love to do a Chainsaw movie, but I would not want to do the original. I'd want to do, and I think I told you this yesterday. I mean, I'll just do it now because it's never going to happen. But I actually pitched on a Chainsaw movie like 5 years ago, the one that ended up getting made for Netflix. That came out a few years ago. But like my idea was like, what if the first two movies are like based on real killers, and in my movie those two movies exist as recreations of what happened, and now there's a new crew of documentarians who are like looking into these spate of killings that are happening in Texas current day in Dallas, and it's almost like Judgment Night, where on Halloween night they go and they try to investigate this, and you actually find the families around killing people, but there's also like all these people who are in masks for Halloween and you don't know who's who, but it's like almost Judgment Night, the Emilio Estevez movie, where it's like in the middle of this dilapidated thing, and it's like I think that the way that I find those things more interesting is if you use we all know, like, you know, I'm so sick of like, you see a Spider-Man movie or a Jason movie and it's like, well, we have to show the lore. And it's like, no, you don't. Everybody knows what the lore is. Just show Jason fucking killing people. Just show Michael Myers fucking killing people.
Yeah.
We don't need to see the origin story again, which I think was, you know, the problem where we need to just, we don't need to keep watching the origin story of this shit. You know, we just want to see another installment.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of these things are going. I think, you know, Rob Zombie, it's not even, I feel like he was just remakes for the thing at that time. And it was kind of like he had to do the remake, but he also wanted to do his own thing. And that ultimately led to Halloween 2, which should have been Halloween 1.
Right.
Halloween 2 should have been Rob Zombie's Halloween. You got this girl in a fucking hospital. If that was the first movie and there's a girl in a hospital and she wakes up like Michael Myers is attacking me, the audience would automatically just know what's going on. They're in the story. They don't need to know anything else. Like if you make a Friday the 13th movie, you know, just have people be telling the legend of Jason and he shows up. You know, Frankenstein, we don't need to see a fucking origin story. I'm just so sick of origin stories. And especially every time they want to start a new franchise or a new spin, it's like, and then they have the origin story and then they make another one 3 years later and it's like, well, that one's not canon. We're actually going to go back to this and do that. It's like,
Do you have a dream remake? Like, is there anything you'd fucking just love to remake?
I feel like when I was in my 20s, I thought that was more into that, but now I'm not. Because there's also the thing where there's no IP that you can make where you can do whatever you want. So there's just the inherent prison of doing any IP where you're at the beckoning call of 10 other people and you have to force all this stuff in, which makes it increasingly hard, which again goes back to the Halloween thing. He had to do that. And then you see what he did when he didn't have to do that and he made Halloween 2. So there's like not like a lot of like dream IP where I'm like, I would kill to do that. Honestly, Silent Night, Deadly Night for me was like one of the dream ones because I didn't want to remake the movie. I just wanted to use the iconography.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like Terminator is my favorite movie, but like that sounds like suicide to make another Terminator movie. I'd love to do a Friday the 13th movie where it's just Jason and there's no origin story. And it's like, you know, I also wrote a slasher script that's never going to happen now, like 7 or 8 years ago called Satanic Summer. And basically it's like these kids who went to a summer camp when they were, you know, younger, they're now in their late 20s, early 30s, and the summer camp has since but shut down. But one of them came into some money, so he rebuys it, and they're like setting it up, and like they're just spending a few weeks there while they're all hanging out and like reconstructing this thing. So it's like in the fucking snow, and there's all adult characters, no kid characters, and then the killer just shows up who killed those people 30 years ago. So it's like I feel like I'd love to do a movie like that where the character just shows up, but I don't want to like reinvent anything, remake anything.
I'd love to see a slasher movie from you.
Well, I mean, I've technically made 2.
Well, I mean, like, you know, like with an icon. You know, I'd love to see you invent an icon. You know, technically the animatronic Santa and what was the second one? Why
Almost Humans a Slasher, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah. So. But I don't know. I'd love to see you come up with an icon. You know, Damien Leone did it with art, and I like the Terrifier movies, but something doesn't connect with me. I feel like you come from the same kind of cloth that I do. So I'd be really interested to see what that would look like. And I feel like the market is almost asking for that. Everybody wants the next Terrifier.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe time will tell.
Something werewolf themed, I would suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a
Or
werewolf
satanic
movie.
themed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Werewolves and
Manson.
Satan.
Yeah.
Well, remaking American Werewolf in London.
That'd be
I don't know what American Werewolf in L.A.
Yeah, there you go.
A
Exactly. In your
European
own
Werewolf in
style.
L.A.
Yeah.
In your own style.
That would actually be pretty fucking sweet.
I mean, well, the thing you were talking about earlier that I'm writing now, that hopefully I get to make next, is technically a serial killer movie, but it's like more in the background orbit of the movie instead of following a slasher,
And serial killers are more often than not drug fueled. So I feel like you'd hit the actual DNA.
Yeah,
of
nobody
where-
wants to talk about that. I mean, have you seen Manson Family, the Jim Van Bebber movie?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. That shit was like, I think, banned for a long time, or like very hard to get. I think I caught it on like YouTube, or I forgot where I watched it. I think they came up with a 4K recently, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's very hard to get. Also, he's a psychopath. Like, he's just impossible to deal with. But I mean, that I feel like is the closest to like being in the mind of a serial killer
Yeah.
that anybody's done.
Well, I think Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, which not
Yeah.
many people I know have seen that movie. That is just a fucking relentless movie, man. Like when they turn on that tape and they're just watching it on
Well, the best
fucking
part is
couch.
when he goes, "Can you play it again?"
Yeah. yeah.
It's like, that's fucked up.
Yeah, man.
But also, it's like, that's another thing about film. So think about Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. They shot that on 16 millimeter, very low budget, and they're just following people around documentary style. And it looks so amazing. Where if you made that movie now and you're like following somebody around on an iPhone or a Blackmagic camera or a Red One, it's not going to look as good. But
right.
the fact that they're doing it on 16 and back then all documentaries and like unsolved, dude, you watch old episodes of Unsolved Mysteries and the recreations are shot on 16 millimeter
Yeah.
and they're so low budget. They've got like one light and it's like the lamp's lighting it and the whole thing's super dark, but it feels like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer because it's so fucking like, yeah, that's what I was talking about that lot. Yeah, look at another bliss shot. But that cover that he just scrolled past, like where it's that one, where it's
Yeah.
just a mirror frame. That was what, like, when I was a kid. Yeah, like I was like, oh my God. That's my bliss shot too. I took that from, I just love that. With the light overhead. But
I love in that movie how like you think he maybe is growing a soft spot for his sister or, his roommate's sister.
this
Ends up
movie went
fucking-
unreleased for like 4 years. You know that?
Yeah.
And the tape was making its way around Hollywood. So like Michael Rooker was just a local Chicago actor. And they made this in 86. It came out in 90. But based on this, he got cast. Like Oliver Stone had seen this. So he's like JFK. He's in these Oliver Stone movies where he was cast in these movies based on Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. But Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer actually wasn't like even in circulation yet.
Right.
So fucking crazy. But yeah, he was just like Michael Rooker was doing plays in Chicago and played Henry. And then like a couple years went by where it seemed like the movie was never going to come out. And
Yeah.
then suddenly he's in Oliver Stone movies.
Dude, when he fucking unpacks that bitch from his trunk at the end of the movie, you're like, oh my God. I thought he was growing a soft spot. I thought we were going to get a fucking, fairy tale ending.
Yeah.
But that is a portrait of a serial killer, my friend.
Fucking John McNaughton, man.
Yep.
I wish he still made movies.
Right. And who was the guy that played his roommate?
Tom Towles.
Yeah, he was he was Devil's Rejects, I think. And House
No,
of
he
Thousand
was
Corpses.
Corpses, but William Forsythe played his brother
Yeah.
in Devil's Rejects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He showed up only in like those dream sequences. Fucking
Yeah.
great actor. Damn, he's dead too. Fuck, dude, all of our icons are dying.
Welcome to aging.
Yeah, I know. Fuck. Well, hot damn powwow, man. We've been fucking going for almost 3 hours. I think we fucking wrapped on everything, but this isn't the last time we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
We'll do this anytime you're in Vegas or anytime you have something to promote. Let's fucking keep running it, man. You're probably one of my favorite guests we've had on. I mean, every time we took a bathroom break, he was like, dude, this is going great, which is awesome. Rusty always keeps it straight. Anytime we've ever had an episode that hasn't been, too climactic, I guess, he's not afraid to say it. So definitely
Classic
one of my
Rusty.
favorites. Yeah.
This is what I do.
But yeah, I think this is a fucking good time to wrap. Let's go get some pizza, yeah?
I'm down.
Let's do it. Joe Begas, thank you for joining us on the show today. Everyone could follow you on Instagram at Joe Begas. Very easy to remember. And dude, I'm excited to see what you have coming next, my friend.
Me too. We'll see what gets financed. So
Well, dude, you've got a bright future ahead of you, my friend. Thank you for joining us in the crypt. We're going to go grab some pizza, ladies and gentlemen. Signature piece.